down 183 points. NASDAQ futures off 47. More on these stories, townhall.com.
If your investments are in a 401k or an IRA, then listen carefully. You spent 30, maybe 40 years building your retirement. The question is, are you about to watch it take a hit you can't recover from? Military escalation in Iran, tariffs and legal chaos, the U.S. dollar under pressure it hasn't seen in years. History is clear. When this much uncertainty hits at once, the investors who moved into gold and silver first came out ahead. Right now, Advantage Gold is offering a free gold investment kit and a free copy of economist Ken Rogoff's powerful new book, Our Dollar, Your Problem. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000. Thousands of Americans have already rolled over a portion of their 401k or IRA into physical gold and silver, completely tax and penalty free through Advantage Gold. Don't wait for the next surge to wish you had moved sooner. Results vary. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
Brazil's president says he's all for a national ban on online betting platforms.
Online gaming is set to generate more than $4 billion a year in Brazil. In fact, Brazil is one of gambling's biggest markets anywhere. The 80-year-old Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who's running for re-election in October, said online gambling has caused what he calls a massive tragedy for millions of families who've seen household debt soar. He added that any move would require the approval of lawmakers. Many of them are allied with the betting companies. Bob Agnew reporting.
The world's first facility for permanently disposing spent nuclear fuel is set to start operations in Finland following decades of construction. The site's on an island near 3 of Finland's 5 nuclear reactors. Built at a cost of $1.2 billion, Finnish regulators are expected to grant a license within a matter of months, after which operations will begin. News and analysis, townhall.com. Google is now allowing users to change their Gmail addresses.
The company says the feature, which began in India, is now available here in the United States. Google has highlighted the update as a way for users to move on from outdated or embarrassing email handles. Changing your address is simple. Go to your Google account page, head to Personal Info, and select Email. You can then enter a new address. Your old address will remain as an alternate, and emails sent to either address will appear in your inbox. Jason Walker reporting.
At their March policy meeting, more Federal Reserve policymakers indicated a willingness to consider an interest rate hike this year as higher gas prices.
Hey, this is Doc Washburn. I'm excited to be back on the air in Little Rock. I'm on 4 to 6 p.m. weekdays right here on 101.1 The Answer. And you never know who will be calling in. I did not smoke cigars with that young woman, Miss Lewinsky. Not yet, Bill. The Doc Washburn Show returns to Little Rock thanks to Northside Power, Night Service Company, and the Lord who opened the door, 4 to 6 p.m. weekdays on 101.1 The Answer.
Welcome to the Car and Truck Doctor Show, brought to you by Bumper to Bumper and your local Bumper to Bumper certified service centers.
Baby, you can drive my car. Yes, I'm gonna be a star. Baby, you can drive my car. And baby, I love you. Beep, 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 yeah.
All right, Thursday. Got to be happy about that. We only got one day left in the week, and then the weekend looms right in front of us. Gary is with us from our folks in the transmission business. Let me get my headphones on so that I'll be able to hear him. I don't have him right now. And let's see. Gary, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well today. Can't complain whatsoever, Dave.
How's the transmission business going?
That's going pretty fair. Everything's clicking right along like it's supposed to.
Everybody, what are the big things if you own a car? Most people do. What are things that you should be watching for that tip you off that maybe they want to, talk to you about taking a look at their transmission?
Well, when people will notice, when it's shifting gears, it just doesn't seem like it wants to shift gears or anymore. They'll be growling, feeling like they're running over rumble strips on the side of the road. When they have issues like that, that's when they need some attention, Dave.
Okay. And what about people who tell me my car feels like it like misses a gear or whatever, and then drops in as I'm driving along? What's their transmission trying to tell them?
Well, sometimes it's like, people that doesn't do this for a living may struggle distinguishing between engine performance issues and a transmission issue, and that's where if they drive these cars every day, and I'm going to say it's pretty safe to say people know, even if they don't know anything about cars, Dave, they know something's not right with my car.
Right.
That's when they need to get it somewhere and get it looked at before they're on the side of the road. That's whatever. Nobody wants to be on the side of the road. Now nobody wants to come to the repair shop, but it beats. You need to know where you're at. Gee, do I spend the money to repair the car? Do I get a new car? That beats being on the side of the road, regardless of how bad it is.
Yeah. With prices going up because of inflation and things, Gary, I'm sure transmission work has followed suit. The parts that you buy get more expensive all the time. Is it still a thought about when you have a car that if the transmission starts screwing up, you got big money coming up?
Well, it is. Our pricing, I guess we've kind of absorbed it, is what we have done. Our pricing hadn't went up in 2 or 3 years. It's needed to, but it hasn't, just due to the market won't bear it. We're kind of the same. And when all the competitors, are charging about the same, well, you kind of got to be competitive or you're not going to get any business. Yeah. So that's kind of how it's went. There's a bunch of my stuff that in the last 3 years, it has doubled in price.
All right.
100%.
So as far as transmission work goes, I know that there are some cars that are known for having, seems like, inherently transmission problems. The Acadia I bought the second year it came out, and I ended up, over the time I've had that car, to put 3 transmissions in, and I found out that other people have had problems with transmissions. What are some cars that you should know have problems that the manufacturers had these problems? They continue to have the problems, and so don't be surprised if you have a problem.
Well, GM trucks, Ford trucks, Dodge trucks, those are the big 3.
Yeah.
And 2, in all fairness, there's more of those than there is anything else on the road.
Right.
So you're naturally, just by numbers, we're going to see more problems just due to the numbers of them out on the road. I mean, if you look around, everybody's driving a GM and Ford and Dodge truck.
Yeah.
The little cars, the economy cars, the stuff from Asia, they got their problems, but they're better than they once were. Very seldom do we work on the Honda cars anymore. Used to, that was a staple, so to speak. They would come in runs. You wouldn't do a Honda for a couple of weeks, and then you'd do 5 of them in a week, But that's not the case anymore. I got some Honda stuff, in my parts department, just to make room for the new stuff. I'm going to go through and throw it all away. It's what's fixing to happen. Just as soon as I get time to do it. We were discussing that yesterday. But even that being said, still going to drive the GM trucks. To me, they drive good, they ride good, and that's just a problem that's everybody faces, and you just deal with it. It's just going to be what you deal with.
Gary Hendry is our guest from Mid-State Transmission down in the Benton area, and if you have transmission problems, I can't offer anybody better than Gary. I've been to Gary's shop a couple of times over the lifetime of my SUV, and they've rebuilt it a couple of times. But when you buy a brand new car, you know that you're going to have to do work on it sooner or later. 100,000 miles before a tune up. What about, when you're looking at transmissions? Uh, are they pretty good in the owner's manual of telling you, 70,000 miles, make sure you change the transmission fluid and things of that nature?
Well, it varies depending on the manufacturer on what they're going to suggest. Um, and there's variables in that, and they kind of write that in there. Um, I tell people the harder you work a truck, the sooner you're going to need to service it. If it has an easy life and it drives to the golf course or just to the grocery store, so to speak, and it's not towing and it's not working, well, that's a pretty easy life on an old truck, and it will certainly uh, go further than one that's working its tail end off every day.
What are things that people should know? This is probably the best question I got for you. What are some things people should know if they tow stuff? If you got a boat, if you've got a trailer or whatever, and you tow them around, what are some things that you need to know are just going to go wrong? It's going to happen.
Well, during the summer when any more people fish year round, but the temperature, the cooling system on the truck has got to be function as well, because I mean that's how it keeps the transmission cool. So just because your transmission is running hot doesn't necessarily mean you have a transmission fault. Um, the cooling system on the vehicle can have a problem, and so just the vehicles that are equipped with the transmission temperature gauge, you can look at it if it makes you happy, but day in and day out, the stuff that's equipped with it, if it gets hot, it's going to turn a light on. Some of the older GM trucks has a tow haul button. Well, if you'll push that button, it raises line pressure, helps the increase the holding capacity, and I think it makes the transmissions last longer. Just things like that. Use what the truck's equipped with for towing, and you'll get the most you can get out of it.
When you buy a new car, they'll usually tell you drive it for like 500 to 1,000 miles and make an oil change. And after that, 30% you get down to it, you should be changing your oil. What about folks that have pickup trucks? What should they be looking at?
Well, oil life is right there on the dash. You can go with it. The transmission, I mean, a lot of stuff, the Dodge stuff, I believe, it says it's a sealed unit, which it doesn't have a serviceable dipstick, but that fluid they use, makes people happy to service it. It's probably good for 100,000 miles. GM's had some issues, so, it's real common for people, depending on the year model that they've had, 50, 60,000, they'd want to change the fluid on those. And the Ford's the same transmission that the GM trucks has. So if you're mad at GM and you go get you a Ford, well, it's almost identical. Not quite. I can't take one out of either and bolt in the other, but it's co-engineered stuff, and it's almost the very same stuff.
Yeah, if it's
And
made,
it's got the same failure.
yeah, if it's made by a person, something's going to go wrong sooner or later. Correct?
Well, that's correct. It's man-made. It's a machine, and machines don't last forever.
All right. When's the first transmission fluid change that you should be looking for as far as pickup trucks are concerned?
Yeah, I think 50, 60,000 miles is a pretty general rule of thumb. You know, is it very plausible to go longer than that in some situations? Absolutely. If you got, but even brand new, the cooling system's working at maximum capacity. Performance is really good when stuff is brand new. So even if you have a truck that you're working pretty hard, 50, 60,000 miles, you still ought to be pretty safe right there, in my opinion, to run one that long. And then you go to servicing it, if you choose to do that.
Yeah, I
Most
bought.
people forget about it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's not on their mind, and they don't do it.
Well, here's what I know. I bought my last car used. It came in at 48,000 miles when I bought it, so I figured it hadn't even really been broken in yet. But the first place that I went to after I went to Joe's and had the oil changed was I made an appointment to come and see you and have the transmission service, because if it's under 50,000 miles, probably has never been serviced, and probably a good idea to let you take a look at it.
Well, that is a good thing. And here's another thing, for people buying cars in the used car market, and that is, when you buy one, a lot of people will buy what we call an aftermarket extended warranty. Okay, for a little peace of mind. Well, if there's a failure, if there's a problem, these warranty companies a lot of times want service records. Did you service your transmission at the recommended time? If you didn't, they can really give pushback and not want to pay for the repair. And so if you got records in hand to where you've done all that you could do to maintain your vehicle, it makes the process way better, way faster, and and they pay. If you got the service records, you've done your due diligence. So that's another good reason to service it, especially if you have a aftermarket warranty on the vehicle.
Yeah, I have one of those on my used car. I bought one. Just thought it was, better idea to do that than to be sitting out there naked, not having one, because sometimes car or pickup truck work is very expensive.
It is. It can be very costly. Real common, $4,000 to $7,000 to fix a transmission in cars nowadays. And so, if you spend the money on that warranty, do what you're supposed to do, where they don't have any pushback. Take that away from them. Follow the rules, do what you're supposed to do, and that way you don't get no pushback, I guess, is my big thing. Be frustrating to have the warranty thinking you're not going to have to pay for a repair, and then you paid all the money for the warranty, and then it's like, well, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. So, hey, we're not writing that check for your transmission customer. It's going to come out of your pocket because you didn't maintain your vehicle and give it a chance.
Yeah, that brings on sticker shock, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, then it's not our fault, but they're not happy, but we explained that to them, and then them and the warranty company can battle it out.
Right.
Is all I can do, because it's not out of our hands, so to speak, on that.
All right, so, Gary Henry is my guest. Midstate Transmission is where he's located at. Give everybody an easy way to find you, Gary, if they're looking to have their transmission serviced.
Well, our address is 5575 Sleepy Village Road in Benton. You can look us up on the internet, Midstate Transmission. Call us 501-315-9100. Pretty easy to find us and get in touch with us. We are off the beaten path a little bit, but it's no big deal to get here, and phone calls real easy.
All right, we'll be back with Gary with more, information for you about your transmission in your automobile. 7:20 on a Thursday morning. Coming up at 8:05, David Fisher will be with us. He'll be talking about the economy, and he'll be talking about some other things as well, dealing with, the prime interest rate and all the rest. So stick around for that. It's always a eye-opener about how much we owe as a nation now in a debit. It's like $39 trillion. You can't even begin to really pay that back. And we'll talk to Fisher about that later on here in the next hour on the Dave Elswick Show. Let's take a break, and then we'll be back with Gary from, of course, Midstate Transmission after these.
We bring you the biggest news stories of the day. Not to tell you what to think, but to allow you to have the most information so you can make up your mind. 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
Have you ever wondered how safe your money is in the bank or how to protect your 401k and IRA? Hi, it's Dave Elswick for Landmark Capital. David Fisher with Landmark Capital will help you navigate through uncertain times. You can also hear David and I discuss the current happenings in the precious metals world every Thursday at 8:05. You'll get up-to-date information on the precious metals markets and great insight from David so you can make the best financial decisions for you and your family. As the founder and CEO of Landmark Capital Precious Metals, David has brought together an experienced team. With 30 years of guiding investments in gold and silver, Landmark Capital can help you secure your wealth today. Call Landmark Capital at 844-604-2575. Have a question? Just call 844-604-2575 or landmarkgold.com. Again, landmarkgold.com.
You served behind the desk. You served in combat.
You did 4 years and got out.
You were drafted. You gave 20 years.
You gave exactly what your country needed.
And so did you. When you raised your hand and swore an oath to your country, when you put your name on the dotted line, you became part of only 1% of Americans who did the same. You are a veteran.
You are a veteran.
You are a veteran. Because no matter when, where, or how you served, you made a sacrifice for your country, and you deserve support.
If you're struggling with life after service, don't wait. Reach out.
Reach out to a loved one, to a fellow veteran, to VA. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
The Car and Truck Doctor Show is back. Sponsored by Bumper to Bumper Auto Parts and these dealers. Joe's Garage in North Little Rock, Mid-State Transmission and Auto Repair in Benton, and Pinnacle Automotive in Little Rock. Now, here's Dave Elswick on 101.1, The Answer.
I'm back with Gary Henry, Mid-State Transmission, as you just heard, one of the Car and Truck Doctor owned mechanical. I don't call you guys mechanics anymore. I call you technicians because you got so many different pieces of computers to work on in cars today as well. That means that you guys need to keep your ability to work on cars and pickup trucks up to date, Gary, and the folks at Bumper to Bumper do a good job of coming out and teaching your people newest, things that you have to know about new technologies that are showing up in these automobiles. Correct?
Yeah, they do. There's multiple ways we learn. That is an important piece of it. We teach ourselves a lot online, just staying up with what's new. We do attend different seminars and stuff as well too. So our education, it doesn't stop. It just continues year after year to learn what's coming out, how the systems operate, and things like that. Just where you can be successful repairing these old cars, because they change them every year, it seems.
Yeah, and let's keep in mind that buying a new automobile now is, a major investment. A lot of people buy cars now that they pay the same amount of money almost that they paid to get into the house that they're in.
True. That's exactly true. Some days they pay more for an automobile. You go buy you a new diesel truck. That's a pretty hard hit. That costs more than a lot of people's first home did.
Yeah, that's really incredible to me. And the time of the shade tree mechanic has really gone the way of the dodo bird. I mean, I don't even try to work on my car anymore. It's a way tougher deal. It's way tougher. I mean, there's still some basic things a man can do at home, and it depends on his level of enthusiasm, I guess, on what he wants to do as well. There's always that guy, that's pretty enthusiastic and got a little good judgment and common sense, and he can get you a little somewhere to a point.
but it does cost him some money because without being able to retrieve trouble codes and look at some data on some stuff, it's a pretty difficult deal to be successful without stepping back and just throwing parts at these vehicles.
Yeah, I mean,
but too, Dave,
yeah.
you know, other than maintenance, we can all kind of bash this new stuff. It sure seems to get down the road way longer than the old stuff did.
Yeah,
without a repair.
I agree. I mean, 100,000 miles was a lot of miles back in the 60s and 70s and maybe even the early 80s. But now 100,000 miles, you're just breaking a car in really good now.
That's true. I mean, back in those days, at 100,000, it was considered, man, this thing's wore out. Doesn't have an engine put in it, or it was running on its last leg, so to speak. Transmission done rebuilt once or twice, you know. And so those good old days, you know, but you know, it was $200 or $300 for a transmission in those cars.
Yeah.
Where today it's like say $4,000 to $7,000.
Yeah, but they're a lot more intricate than they used to be, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's way more involved, way more moving parts. You know, we went from 2 and 3 speeds as the common transmission. Now 6, 8, and 10 is the most common thing that we're working on. So, and then some stuff, and some of the Chrysler stuff, we just consider it irreparable. It's just not fixable. Shouldn't have bought the car, and they're relatively inexpensive cars for the. And why Chrysler put this unit in them is just absurd. You know, it's just not a fixable unit. Don't even want to replace it. It's that bad.
Wow.
So there's some things, even us, we'd rather not see pull in the driveway because people the general population that's driving a little inexpensive Chrysler 200, when you tell them, well, a new one from the dealer is $10,000, you know, I mean, generally they don't have the means to put it in there, and the car's not worth the repair.
Correct. Because
even if they have it, I'm like, it's a bad decision to spend this money on this car. Don't make another bad decision. You need to, it's in your best interest to get another car, you know. And so that's what we see on some of that stuff is just kind of crazy that how they've done this.
Yeah, and you don't have to buy a new one off the showroom floor. You can go in and probably find some really good used cars that the people have taken care of them. I mean, this Buick that I bought, I've put 50,000 miles on it now, and it's still running like a champ. But I change the oil when it hits 30% all the time. I just looked at it yesterday. It was at 31. So when I get off the air today, I'll be calling Stephanie and setting up for an oil change. As far as the transmission goes, I'll talk to you about, after the first transmission service, when should you be looking for the new one? But right now, we've got Bill O'Reilly to talk to.
Stand by for the O'Reilly Update Morning Edition. But first, trapped in a timeshare, fees rising every year while availability shrinks, resorts making exiting nearly impossible. That's why I partner only with Lone Star Transfer. This family-owned company is transparent, honest, respectful. They have helped more than 40,000 owners exit legally and ethically through a simple guaranteed process. No surprise fees, no unused vacations, no stress. Please visit LoneStarTransfer.com or you can call 855-551-7066. Tell them Bill sent you today. On this Thursday, as we predicted, President Trump is extending negotiations with Iran for 2 weeks. On April 6th, I said, quote, the president reiterated that the end of Tuesday, tomorrow, if he doesn't have some kind of deal with Iran that involves nukes, that he'll bomb their electrical grid, take them out. They won't have any communications. I believe that might be extended. The Tuesday deadline might be extended. So I nailed it. Why? Because I spoke with President Trump. I know what's going on in there. I'm not bragging. That's my job as a reporter. As part of the deal that was made, Iran will now be involved with Hormuz, but will not control it. Negotiations are supposed to begin in Pakistan on Saturday. Now, the reason all of this is happening is that Donald Trump did not want to kill civilians in Iran. I had a long discussion with him about that. He wanted a deal. The Iranians are almost impossible to deal with, and this whole thing could fall apart. There's no doubt about it. If it does, Mr. Trump will go back to his threat to annihilate that country. So that's where we are. Back in a moment. Homeowners, when is the last time you checked your home title? Scammers are everywhere, and they're targeting your equity. With just a single forged document, they can file at the county. So don't wait until it's too late. Find out if you are already a victim today. Please go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use the promo code BILL to get a free title history report, plus a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update.
The Car and Truck Doctor Show is back. Sponsored by Bumper to Bumper Auto Parts and these dealers. Dewdrop Auto Repair in Pine Bluff, Duck's Garage in Benton, and Jets Gas and Service in Little Rock. Now, here's Dave Elswick on 101.1. The Answer.
Well, we'll continue on talking with Gary Hendry. He is our guest this morning. He's with Midstate Transmission. He is down in the Benton area, and it's a great place to get your car worked on. I've used Gary many times. I've used him 4 or 5 times over the time that he's been on the air with me. My home of record, so to speak, to get my oil changed and all of that is with Joe's Garage in North Little Rock, and that's where I get my oil changed at. And does Joe do transmission servicing as well, or do I need to bring that to you, Gary?
I would think Joe's men. Joe's got some good men, so I would expect while you're there that they could handle that on this vehicle. Yours is a pretty simple, straightforward thing, and I bet they can take care of it, so you just get to make one stop.
All right. Well, then I'll talk to Stephanie about that as well, because I said last time I had a check was at 50,000. I'm feeling I just passed 100. I'm at 101,000. It's time to go in and maybe change that transmission fluid again.
Right. Now would be a good time.
Okay. I'll tell them that's what I need done.
That fresh fluid helps keep the converter from shuddering in it, get you down the road without having to come see me.
Well, every year I make that round trip to, Panama City. So I like to keep everything running good on that automobile. The last thing I want to do is be sitting on the side of the road out in the middle of a cotton field somewhere, heading down to the Florida area. Let's talk about when people buy their automobile and they're looking at making sure that it runs cleanly. What do you tell I'm going to just use the average driver. How many miles does the average driver usually drive? Around 45,000 a year?
I wouldn't think it would be that much. I would think the average person's going to drive 12 to 20,000. I mean, the range is going to vary. I'm probably on my car. I'm going to combination of mine. I'm going to be about 15,000 a year is what I'm going to drive. So some people who travel for work though, or has an hour commute, is going to do substantially more. Real easy to put 20,000 a year on one, but I live 2 miles from work, so I don't put a bunch of miles on mine. But yeah, so really every couple of years, people need to be looking at servicing, their transmissions when they have an hour commute. People that live here around my part of the world drive all the way to Hot Springs for a job, or all the way to North Little Rock and back. They're going to put a bunch of miles in a hurry on one.
Well, so I tend to put quite a few. I I live in Cabot. I commute from there and back again every day to Little Rock, and it's about a 70 mile round trip. 70 miles every day. You add up the miles pretty quick.
Yes, it is. That would be, 70 miles a day, 5 days a week. That's 350 miles, 52 weeks a year, 18,200 miles. That's just to get to work.
Yeah.
No, not counting any running around on the weekends, vacation trips, or anything. So it'd be pretty easy for you to put 28,000 miles a year on your car.
Yep. I do.
Sure would.
Be the first one to admit that I do. But I also will admit to you that I'm a stickler for preventive maintenance. I want to bring my car in whatever times that the manual says, because the back of your manual, and it's probably going to be on the internet, tells you at what intervals you should have your oil changed and your transmission fluid and have other things looked at. Makes a lot of sense to read that owner's manual, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And here in the city, your air filter is going to last longer than if you live out in the country on a gravel road. It's way less dust, I suppose, than country folks, on gravel roads. So things like that, need to take into consideration, is where do you drive your vehicle? And it even says so in your manual, and when you read about these cars at the duties, whether it's severe duty or light duty use, off-road, if you're in construction in your own dusty construction sites in the dirt and the mud and the dust, your maintenance is going to be a little different than something that doesn't get off the asphalt as well.
Well, let me take you back to, you were talking about the filtration, and many people now have a cabin air filter. It's about time to make that change now after the springtime. It's probably all clogged up with pollen by now, would you think?
Absolutely. Now, if your vehicle has a cabin air filter, it'd be a really good time to change it. Keeps your air a little fresher, smelling a little nicer for a longer period of time, And so if you do that, a little maintenance, the air quality's better. Men that's working out in environments, that's got a truck with the rubber floor mat, mud and everything, it's a good idea to keep that stuff washed out. I've got some customers that their air has quit working over the years, and it has sucked so much dust and dirt off of the floorboard up on the AC evaporator core, and with it being moist, it turned to a solid brick of dirt.
God.
And so it can't suck any air. But these trucks come out of rock quarries that's where they had to go work, is in these rock quarries, and so it's an expensive repair, pulling the whole dash out, replacing the evaporator core, the heater core, just where you have your HVAC system works good. So us men can kind of forget about that. Hey, the truck's dirty over on the floorboard where it sucks in this air, and it'll sure coat one and make it where air can't flow through that stuff.
Let me move away from just talking about transmissions and ask you, for folks that are out there that no matter what automobile that they have, it used to be, I used to take my car in to Joe's, this is 20-something years ago, and I'd get the engine flushed out in the spring, have all new internal antifreeze put in it for that year of driving. That's not necessarily the way to go now, right?
I don't think so. I mean, right on the jug, this stuff's good 5-year, 100,000 mile on this extended life antifreeze. So you don't have to do that every year. The coolants we use, we're not in the Stone Age anymore, Dave. So this stuff lasts considerably longer than it once did. Now, that being said, everything comes with a price. I mean, nowadays, antifreeze can be $20 a gallon, where the old green stuff used to be $3.50. Due to inflation, the change of things, it costs way more to do things like that. But the service intervals are way longer. Even your belt on your car nowadays, they don't crack. and go bad. Serpentine belts are way better than they once were, and I certainly don't see the cracking on them and the need to replace them as often as we once did.
Yeah.
As with hoses too. I mean, these old hoses are running 150,000 miles on a lot of stuff without any problems, and so it's not something. Oh, just replace all the belts and hoses on my rig every 2 or 3 years, like back in the 70s and 80s. Of course, they've come a long ways with the rubber on this, so it's a way better product than it once was.
And you're going to do probably bumper to bumper parts, which have a 2-year warranty on them or 24,000 miles. And if something goes wrong with them during that warranty time, bumper to bumper is going to change those parts out absolutely free for their customers, as well as 3 years and 36,000 miles if you use a bumper to bumper, card to get the work done.
True. But gee, I can't recall ever having the warranty when the stuff just doesn't fail.
Yeah.
The failure rate is so minute, it's almost non-existent.
Well, the reason I came to see you, I used to have my transmission serviced at a different place, but through word of mouth and talking to other members of the Bumper to Bumper Certified Service Center teams, there's no doubt that you do the great job. You're right on top of all the technology that's going on, and there's a lot of things changing year to year now.
There is. And sometimes I tell people, hey, I don't claim to be the greatest. I don't claim to know every single thing there is, but I tell people, hey, we care. And we have the best of intentions to do you a good quality job and repair at whatever we're doing, And, hey, I want somebody working for me that does care and stuff like that, because it makes a difference when people care. And so that's us. We care.
Yeah, well, here's the key. You care enough that you back your work for a couple of years, where most transmission shops would give you 12 months. You're looking at 24 months or better on other cars.
Yeah, generally most all of my stuff's 36 months, 36,000 miles. We want stuff to last halfway to forever. But sometimes, you got to have something on paper to keep the world and the legal system happy. And that's the reason for that. There has been occasions to where, for whatever reasons, there was an issue, even that we took care of it, even when people's out of warranty. Got to feel like people got their money's worth, and for whatever reason, I have fixed people's stuff 50,000 miles just because, I wasn't satisfied. And so we just took care of the problem. So that's what we do sometimes.
Well, here's what I do know about Bumper to Bumper and the Bumper to Bumper Certified Service Centers. You go in to get some work done. Let's say I go in and get an oil change. I know that the technician is going to start on the front end and go all the way to the back end and check all the fluids and jerk on the tires to make sure, tie rods are still good and all the rest. You give it a once over to make sure, because it's better if you got the person there right now to go ahead and do it than to make them make another trip.
Absolutely. And two, sometimes it's like, okay, at the moment, I don't have for whatever reason, if I don't have the manpower to fix it, a customer at least needs to know the condition to where it's like, until this is repaired, I don't need to make this trip. This needs to be repaired. This is the state of health the vehicle's in, and it's not 100%. So those are the things and the reason why people needs to know that.
Yeah. Also, all those parts that are in your car went in at the same time if it's a brand new car. So if something is wearing out and there were 6 of them put in the car at the time that you bought the car, you might want to look at the other 5 to make sure they don't need to be replaced as well.
Exactly. I mean, generally, you don't want to put one spark plug in. You don't want to put one ignition coil in. Then it's hub assemblies, wheel bearings. I mean, if one's bad and making a roaring noise, well, the other one's probably going to be right behind it. So if life lets you, you're good to put 2 of them on, and then you're not back in for another repair. If it doesn't, just be willing to know, hey, when it fails, it's going to make the same symptom. You're going to have a roaring noise, but when you show up at the repair shop, there's always the plausible possibility the new part has failed, but it's uncommon. So be prepared to know you very are possibly going to need the other one replaced as well.
All right, we got 13 minutes until 8 o'clock. Don't forget, at 8:05, David Fisher will be with us. He'll be talking about the economy. He'll be talking about, with the Iran war going on, what should you be expecting in the stock market, gas prices, and all that. So David Fisher's coming up after the news at the top of the hour. But right now, we're going to get a break in, and then we're going to come back with Gary, and we'll finish up our conversation with him about transmissions and just keeping your car running the way you want it to run during the hottest parts of the summer. A break and then more with Gary here on the Dave Elswick Show.
This is 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Start your morning with a voice you know and trust. Dave Elswick, bringing you the issues that matter to Arkansas, the news behind the headlines, and conversations you won't hear anywhere else. Then in the afternoon, stay informed and fired up with Doc Washburn, breaking down the biggest stories of the day and what they mean for you. And all day long, hear from some of the biggest voices in talk radio. CNN's Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, and Larry Elder, bringing you sharp insight, lively debate, and the perspective you've been looking for. News, opinion, insight, and the conversations shaping our community. From Little Rock to the Natural State and beyond. This is 101.1, The Answer. 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Larry Elder sees the president blazing a trail.
The Iranians hold a chokehold because people are afraid they're going to build a nuke. We haven't stopped them. Venezuela has a thug that's run the country into the ground, and we put up with it in our own hemisphere. Same thing with Cuba, and there's nothing we can do about it. Trump has walked in and said no, no, and no. That's what President Trump has done.
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 6, right before Hugh Hewitt at 9 on 101.1, The Answer. The Car and Truck Doctor Show is back, sponsored by Bumper to Bumper Auto Parts and these dealers, Weber Automotive in Conway and Total Tire and Automotive in Conway. Now, here's Dave Elswick on 101.1, The Answer.
All right, we're looking at about another 6 minutes here with Gary Hendry. We've covered a lot of area with him today, talking about, of course, transmissions, because that's his percadillo. That's what he takes care of more than anything else. That's why it's called Mid-State Transmission, for his bumper-to-bumper certified service center. I've used him several times. I can attest that they're really a professional group of people. I know that he lives by the same adage that Joe lives by. He doesn't work on automobiles and pickup trucks. He fixes them. He's not going to give a car back to you that he hasn't fixed the problem that was causing your car not to run the way it should.
I mean, looking at all the your 5-star reviews on your page from 48 pages long, Gary, I think that y'all got a pretty good reputation.
It's not too bad. It's difficult to make everybody in the old world happy. There's that occasional, but then those people can't be made happy.
Right. I have a question for you, and you're going to hate this. So,
okay, go ahead.
I have a Dodge Charger. You already know. You already know that transmission then went out at 101000. But it slipped out, like it's in third, like when you get up to 30, it slips sometimes if you don't go past that real quick. And then I'll have to and people laugh at me because I'm like, I'm not fixing it until I actually have to. So I just downshift it out in neutral and I keep driving it. But is that something that you have to replace a whole transmission for? Or is that something that could be a torque? Or...
On the charger, is it full of fluid? The AC condenser and transmission cooler are built together, and it's common for the transmission cooler part to rupture and seep transmission fluid out slowly. So needs to, first things first, is it full of fluid? If it's full of fluid and it's doing some things like this, you'd probably end up replacing the entire transmission.
Yeah.
But it depends on the codes that was in it and just have to be diagnosed. But
the code I got was a torque code.
Yeah. Low fluid will cause these problems.
You know, they make it so hard to check yourself because they don't give you the dipstick.
Nope. You're not going to check it yourself. It's not going to happen. It's something that you'll have to have done by someone who's got the tools and the knowledge.
Well, I appreciate
that. And so if you want to do something yourself, look in the grill at the bottom and see if it's built up with oil and dust at the bottom on your AC, at the bottom of the AC condenser. Now you can do that to be like, well, it's obviously got a leak, so I'm probably low on fluid. If you will get the leak repaired and the fluid level corrected, you could possibly save the transmission, not need to rebuild or replace it, and spend way less money just by doing the maintenance we talk about and making sure it's full of fluid.
Well, that's the first time I've heard that, and I'll be bringing it to you.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Gary, person comes in to see you. What's the first thing you're going to do with their automobile? Is there a way, if the people have been keeping track of their services, is there a master computer where people put that stuff at, or is it every workshop has its own computer and keeps its own information?
Yes, everybody has their own. We are not all linked together by no means. Joe has his, I've got mine, and I got no idea who Joe's customers are or the services they've bought. And so that's all pretty much an independent thing as far as I know. That's the way that is.
Okay.
So, sure, yes.
But that puts it on the onus on the owner. If you're the owner, my suggestion is you find someone like Gary or Duck or Joe or whatever, and you go and take your car into them about everything, your oil changes and whatnot, and they'll have a history of your automobile right there at their facility on their computer.
That's correct. And it's kind of like you going to your family doctor. You don't go to a different one every time you go. You kind of develop a relationship, with your doctor. They kind of know your quirks and what works and how things are going. And it's the same way with cars.
All right. Let me get
that. Sounds kind of crazy, but that's the way it is.
No, but
not really. It's actually, yeah.
Joe knows how I drive. So he knows how to, what are some things for him to look at and to get my automobile back up to 100%. The other thing that we should talk just for a few moments with is that changing your oil isn't the way it used to be. You go to some of these Jiffy Lubes or whatever, and they every one of them uses a different oil, and maybe they're not putting the right weight in. You should take it to a really good facility like yours on Mid-State Transmission or Joe's Garage or Duck's Garage, and get yourself the right weight oil that your car is supposed to use.
Correct. Absolutely. A little of attention to detail. It's not about the speed. We're not saying we can have it done in 10 minutes, but then who wants it done in 10 minutes if it's not correct?
Yeah, that's for sure. And those drain plugs strip out so easy and stuff. I only take it to Joe. Joe is the only guy who changes my oil.
Yes, and people that drive Subarus, I've seen some of these quick lube places drain the oil out of the differential on the transmission.
Oh no!
and then double fill the engine oil. And it's just, their help is inexperienced. They drain their own stuff, and then it destroys the transmission and the engine's 4.5 quarts over full of oil. Now, it doesn't happen every day, but I have seen it, and I've replaced some Subaru transmissions totally because of it. And the differential feels separately than the transmission, so it will go down the road and it will not slip until it goes to growling and make a noise. And it's just like then it's all over. There's no fixing it.
All right, tell my listeners again exactly where you're located at. How busy are you? If it's a rebuild on a transmission, about how long is that going to take? Is it going to take a couple of weeks or what?
No, the things that's going bad, we keep the parts here. We are approximately 3 or 4 days from start to finish on most transmission jobs nowadays. And the crews, I got a big crew, so we really don't get backlogged on the transmissions. That's just what it takes day in and day out, week after week. And we're in Benton. We're off of Alcoa Road at 5575 Sleepy Village Road here in Benton.
All right.
That's where we're at.
Gary Henry, thanks so much for giving us the time here on the Dave Elswick Show. A lot of great information you shared with my listeners today.
Well, glad to do it. Y'all enjoy this weather.
All right, we'll do. Gary Henry, Mid-State
Thanks,
Transmission here on the Dave Elswick Show. It's an old saying, but he knows more in his little finger about transmissions than I do in my entire brain. Just let you know that if I got a transmission problem, I'm going to go see Gary Henry.
Sounds like,
because he's.
I've been doing it for about 30 years now, a little over 30 years.
Yeah, well, you do a good job. You keep doing that great job, Gary. We appreciate you. All right.
Y'all have a good one.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
same to you now. Bye-bye now. Gary Henry from Mid-State Transmission right here on the Dave Elswick Show. We're going to take a break. We have next is news. We'll bring you up to date on what's going on around the world. Don't forget, Artemis re-enters the atmosphere and it's going to splash down in the Pacific Ocean down by the San Diego area tomorrow, and it will happen about 3 o'clock in the afternoon our time. With that said, let's get to the news, and then I'll be back with David Fisher and all of his insights into what's going on with the economy.
Freedom has a frequency, and it's 101.1. The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. KDXE, Kamek Village, Little Rock.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. President Trump is warning Iran the U.S. military is not standing down and could attack again if Iran fails to honor the 2-week ceasefire and ultimately a long-term agreement. This as Iran again interferes with shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, accusing Israel of breaching the ceasefire by bombing Hezbollah targets in Lebanon.
Semi-official news agencies in Iran have published a chart suggesting the country's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard has put sea mines into the Strait of Hormuz during the war, a likely pressure tactic as Iran, Israel and the US are now in an uneasy 2-week ceasefire ahead of possible negotiations in Islamabad. Meanwhile, in unusually strong language, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has condemned Israeli strikes in Lebanon that killed and injured hundreds on Wednesday. Israel says the ceasefire agreement does not extend to its war in Lebanon with the Iran-backed Hezbollah militant group. I'm Charles Tillithesma.
An American man being held by Bahamian authorities
Police in the Bahamas have arrested a man for the disappearance of his wife, who vanished while on an 8-foot motorboat in the Bahamas. Officials say 55-year-old Lynette Hooker and her husband Brian Hooker were traveling from Hopetown to Elbow Cay Saturday, when, according to the husband, his wife fell overboard with the boat's keys, causing the engine to turn off. Police say strong currents carried the woman away. Lynette Hooker's daughter, Carly Aylesworth, tells NBC News her mom was an experienced sailor and that it's unlikely she would just fall off the boat. She also says the couple had a history of not getting along, especially when drinking. I'm Donna Warder.
A Hawaii doctor accused of trying to kill his wife on a cliffside hike has been convicted of attempted manslaughter. 47-year-old Gerhard Koenig's attorney says there will be an appeal. Stock futures modestly lower on Wall Street. More on these stories, townhall.com.
What is dedication?
The thing that drives me every day as a dad is Dariana. We call him Day for short. Every day he's hungry for something, whether it's attention, affection, knowledge. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that when he's no longer under my wing, that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is you don't need to know all the answers. The craziest thing was believing that your dad knew everything. So as a dad, you felt like you had to know everything. You had to get everything right. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as it's coming from love, then, it kind of starts to work itself out. I want him to be able to sit back one day and go, we worked together, we did a good job.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hoping to reduce its reliance on American natural gas, Mexico is looking into embracing fracking technology.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has announced plans to tap into unconventional natural gas deposits at a time when the Iran war is disrupting global energy markets. Sheinbaum avoided the term hydraulic fracturing or fracking, a drilling method used to extract oil and natural gas from the deep underground bedrock using a highly pressurized liquid. She calls it a quest for sustainable extraction, emphasizing the environmental impacts would be minimized.
And that's correspondent Bill Alexander. Seeking re-election, Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban is welcoming President Trump's endorsement. Vice President Vance campaigned for Orban this week, highlighting the alliance. The vice president slammed Orban critics in the European Union for what he calls foreign interference in the election. Orban is facing a tough re-election campaign. Views and analysis, townhall.com. Following his recent accident and arrest, prosecutors are seeking prescription drug information from Tiger Woods.
A week after Woods flipped his Range Rover and was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence. Prosecutors say they plan to issue a subpoena for all prescription records at Lewis Pharmacy in Palm Beach. They want details such as the times prescriptions were filled and any warnings about driving. Woods pleaded not guilty last week after deputies found pain pills in his pocket while showing signs of impairment. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
After their historic trip around the far side of the moon, the Artemis 2 astronauts continue their homeward-bound journey. All is going according to schedule. The crew is expected to splash down tomorrow in the waters off Southern California. Watching Wall Street ahead of the opening bell this morning, Dow futures down 198 points. More on these stories, townhall.com.
If things don't change, can you imagine America in 20 years? Scary thought, isn't it? The good news is we have the power to take our nation back. Stay right here for all the information you need. 101.1, The Answer.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Join me weekdays for This Morning, America's First News. Hear the stories you'll be talking about and searching for all day as we go beyond the headlines and above the chatter with your first look at breaking news, money, Washington politics, technology, entertainment, entrepreneurship, and sports. We explain why stories matter. That's why we are referred to as the most important and relevant radio program. Join us weekdays for This Morning, America's First News.
Elswick! 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 Elswick!
All right, 6 minutes after 8 here on the Dave Elswick Show. A little earlier out on the West Coast, Dave Fisher is, I don't know, what are you finishing up your first cup of coffee, David, or are you on your third cup of coffee?
Well, I only have maximum of 2, and I'm done with my first one, but I'm cutting back today. I've been up since about...
All right, we got a lot to talk about today here on the Dave Elswick Show. The ceasefire has gone into effect. Yesterday, there was some positive momentum towards perhaps ending this Iranian war that we've got going on. And the oil was pretty volatile yesterday as far as its price. It started off high, ended up a lot cheaper than it was when it started yesterday. Now, you've been following the financial markets for literally decades, David. Currently, people that are out there and they're invested in the stock market through a 401k, or they're thinking about buying some gold or silver or whatever, they're a little bit, shaky about all of this. And do you see a pattern since we've been in this war to help investors out a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, foremost, I'm not a market prognosticator, and I'm who knows.
Okay, we're having problems with the sound, David. Just so you'll know, we'll have Val talk to you here in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and take my break early and give you guys time to talk a little bit. It's the Dave Elswick Show. Our guest, David Fisher, he knows more about the markets in his little finger than I do in all my gray matter between my ears. So we'll get back to David here in just a moment on the Dave Elswick Show.
To fearless opinion, we report what matters without apology. Written by people who actually believe what you believe. Town Hall tells the stories the corporate press buries. From President Trump to Capitol Hill. From pivotal elections to your everyday lives. Join the movement at townhall.com. Real stories, real reporters, real conservative media.
On Salem News Channel, principled voices are shaping today's conversation. Scott Jennings brings clarity to the toughest debates. Josh Hammer's blistering commentary puts politics and culture on trial. And Alex Marlowe's insight connects us to what matters most. Watch anytime on Samsung TV Plus, Pluto TV, or find us on your screen at snc.tv. 3 new shows, 1 powerful lineup. Salem News Channel, across America.
The more you listen to your kids, the closer you'll be. So we asked kids, what do you want your parents to hear?
I feel sometimes that I'm not listened to. I would just want you to listen to me more often and evaluate situations with me and lead me towards success.
We're not adults, so just be there and listen. I just want someone to yap to. And I just feel like I'll be fine if someone just hears me talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
You're doing a really good job. And I don't think I tell you that enough. And I know sometimes we get into it and it's just hard on both of us. But, try to understand me more and I'll try to do the same.
Listening is a form of love. Find resources to help you support your kids and their emotional well-being at sounditouttogether.org. That's sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal.
Don't miss cutting-edge coverage of daily news from an America First perspective on the Alex Marlowe podcast on the Salem Podcast Network.
Everything I'm seeing from the public is that public does not like the idea of just pure welfare and charity being done for people who are able to work and are not willing to work. So able-bodied people have got to get back to work.
Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com. You can watch the show right now. The Dave Elswick Show is streaming live on Facebook. This is 101.1 The Answer.
Okay, back with you. I'm assuming that David can hear us on his end. Are you hooked up as far as being able to talk to us, David?
I can hear you just fine, Dave, just like always. Can you hear me?
No. Okay. All right.
Should I call you?
David, you got Val's number. She wants you to give her a call
Don't have
so
Val's
that
number.
she can help figure out what exactly is going on. So we'll get to that. Like I said, David has a whole lot of things to talk about the financial markets. What can we think we're going to see as this Iranian situation continues here on the Dave Elswick Show? And then I want to talk about where we're heading and what's next. But as soon as this thing is put to bed, it looks like to me the oil futures are looking to take a drastic turn. Now, why is it that you can see prices shoot up in a heartbeat, but watch as they slowly crawl back down? I'll give you my thoughts on that real fast, and then we'll get things set up with David here and get his thoughts as well. The filling stations pay X amount of dollars for the gas that they have brought in. Now, if the war, something happens and prices go down on oil, that's not going to show up for you for some time, because they've got to sell the gas that they bought at a higher price maybe a couple of days ago. Now, okay, now David is with us. We got him.
Yep, I'm here,
Dave.
Okay, I can hear you on the air. I was just going to explain when we're talking about things like your gasoline prices. The reason they come down slower than they go up is that the filling stations are paying X amount of dollars for a truckload of fuel, which may be much more than what it is right now. And until they got to pay to recoup their investment, correct?
Yeah, and they also
many stations have a contract, and so when they buy the contract, a week or so in advance, the price when it pulls back, it comes down slower. Prices tend to spike quickly because they can do that for the fear of it's going higher the next time they make an agreement, but they tend to come down slower and retreat. Unfortunately, that's how the system works.
All right, so you have been following the markets through peacetime and during shaky war times, and you have learned that many times there's patterns that just show up when you've been in seeing the country at war. Share those with us.
Yeah, definitely. There's a pattern here, and as a first out of the gate here, I want to say that nobody can fully predict anything, so I'm not giving you market advice. But there is some sort of a pattern that we can look at. On top of that, it's not an easy market to be in right now. Even the most seasoned traders on Wall Street are having a difficult time because it's one tweet that changes everything, or one response, or a missile that's being fired in a ceasefire that changes the landscape of everything. But let's look at the backdrop for a second. President Trump has regularly said, refers to the stock market, and he's used that as a barometer for the healthiness of the economy. But if we go back down memory lane, March 27th on a Friday, the Dow tumbles 800 points. Why? Because we couldn't come to agreement, and It was the fifth straight losing week of the S&P 500. Only to find out on Monday, President Trump removes the idea of having to open up the Strait of Hormuz but come to some other agreement. And, you know, what happens? The Dow surges 1,100 points. Gold and silver basically have reacted at the same measures of the stock indexes. Then we come down here, get closer to where we're at today. You know, a week ago, we were having all this fluctuation. Oil prices soared on 13% on one day on April 1st, and that was no joke. Then we get down to here what just happened. They come to an agreement, and then oil drops about 10, 12%. Then we're finding out, and the ceasefire happens for 2 weeks. All because President Trump threatened to wipe out a civilization, and they came to the table. Well, now we're finding out that it's not a ceasefire. They're really still charging $2 million for tolls going for oil tankers. And so the Strait of Hormuz is not really open. It's being controlled by Iran, not us, unfortunately. So, you know, Jamie Dimon says we just need to finish this job and finish it right. So what is that? I don't know. But we're dealing with a sect of people. You know, there's two different types of thought processes in Iran. There's Persians who want a regime change, who are young, you know, under 40. They see how it can really be, and they feel that they've been living under a dictatorial leadership. And then you have this old regime that's been in place since AD 600 that used to fighting dirty and doesn't want to agree on anything and hates Christianity. And that's, you know, are we talking to those people, or who are we talking to? And so there's this volatility, this yo-yo, but I can say it's no events. I've been doing this for 32 years. They don't last forever. This thing is going to change. And when it does, we're going to get back to normal fundamentals. But it's not going to be next week. I think it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks from now before we have oil fully flowing through the Strait of Hormuz. There's 800 tankers sitting on the sidelines right now, and only in the last day since the agreement, 10 or 12 tankers has gone through.
So what should we expect then coming up? Where are we headed? What's next? Can you kind of you can put your turban on right now and get your crystal ball out and take a look at it and see what are you seeing?
Well, many radio stations have been called the Nostradamus, but not when it comes to war. This is not my element, but I'm going to say this. The problem is this. Nobody knows how this is going to end. And that's what is the main thing that causes this massive uncertainty. But I see 4 outcomes. First of all, the goals of the United States has always been regime change, opening the Strait of Hormuz, not having tolls, not Iran controlling it being a free international waterway, which is what it is. This is an international waterway. They don't own this strait. They border it, but they don't own it. That'd be like saying we own the Pacific and the Atlantic, and we dictate what ships come through there. We don't. Neither do they own the strait. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is get all the enriched uranium. Those are non-negotiable things. So if we get no deal on any of those, that's a bad deal. A weak deal would be getting 1 of the 3. A strong deal would be getting 2 of the 3. And a perfect, complete victory would be 100% 3 out of 3. But to get that, I think we're going to have boots on the ground, and that's like the deal breaker for the United States. So we got to get ships through the Strait of Hormuz. We got to get these commercial vessels working. Oil is the weapon that Iran uses. They want to drive the global economy into a recession by jacking the prices up. Oil is up again today, 4%. Brent is at $98. We're still below 100. That's the good thing. But we're a long ways from having sort of agreement. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw bombs being dropped significantly in the near future by the United States.
All right. We got to take a break, David. We'll come back. I'd like you to talk about this report you got a hold of from the nonpartisan Washington think tank, the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. And I want you to tell us what this report says. We'll do that when we return. Did we have to take the break now, Val? Or yeah, we do. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a short break, and then we'll be back with David Fisher.
Looking for heavy equipment but don't know where to buy? Purple Wave Auction has you covered. Always online and always no reserve. It's your destination for construction or ag equipment ready to work. We even sell semis, trailers, and fleet equipment for your operation. Best part? It's free to join. Head to purplewave.com. That's purplewave.com. Sign up for a free account and start bidding today. Purple Wave Auction, the easiest and most straightforward way to buy and sell equipment.
There's a real battle going on, not only for our future, but that of our children and grandchildren. How do we ensure they have it better than we do? One way is to keep listening to us. We're your information source in the battle. 101.1, The Answer.
President Trump has triggered a $200 billion tech disruption, and Wall Street is asleep at the switch. This $200 billion investment in chip technology could make today's artificial intelligence chips obsolete. Technology that will make today's AI data centers a thing of the past, like IBM's old mainframes. While most investors are focused on old-fashioned AI, there are three companies quietly building a trillion-dollar triangle that could transform every tech sector on Earth. These three companies are gearing up to develop and manufacture supercomputers the size of a dinner plate. Institutions like Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street are pouring more than $200 billion into this AI revolution. Investment guru George Gilder has been predicting tech revolutions for more than 40 years, including the iPhone, Netflix, and Amazon. Now he's got his finger on three companies whose technology will change tech forever. Log on to trilliondollartriangle.com to find out which three companies are working on what could be the biggest tech disruption since the internet. trilliondollartriangle.com. That's trilliondollartriangle.com.
Hey, this is Doc Washburn. I'm excited to be back on the air in Little Rock. I'm on 4 to 6 p.m. weekdays right here on 101.1 The Answer. And you never know who will be calling in. I did not smoke cigars with that young woman, Miss Lewinsky. Not yet, Bill. The Doc Washburn Show returns to Little Rock thanks to Northside Power, Night Service Company, and the Lord who opened the door, 4 to 6 p.m. weekdays on 101.1 The Answer.
Dave Elswick is the conservative voice of Arkansas, and he's back. 101.1 The Answer.
Okay, we'll continue with David here on the Dave Elswick Show. I left you knowing that he's come across a report from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. And what was in that report, David? You say it was eye-opening.
First of it, the title of it is eye-opening itself. It's called Break Glass, a Plan for the Next Economic Shock. So in other words, the idea that they're talking about in this report, the title is, fire alarm. You have to break the glass, and there's going to be a fire alarm. There's going to be a fire in the economy, a pullback, some sort of recession, and how we're going to have this economic shock. So they go down memory lane. They look at the previous financial crisis, and the United States has always had money to fall back on.
We're talking about
debt to GDP. In other words, when you look at 2008, national debt roughly stood at 35% of the GDP. At the end of 2008, it was 70%.
Actually,
it was the end of 2010 when we really got out of that recessionary environment. This next time was COVID in 2020. The GDP, the national debt was 80%, and we hit 100% at the end of COVID.
So we're going into
this, you would think it would be 100%. But we've been spending like a drunken sailor. Now we're at 130% GDP to the national debt. It's the highest it's ever been, higher than World War II. We have nothing to fall back on, no wiggle room, and 17% of the budget is the only wiggle room we have that's not been embedded as absolutes where we have to spend as what we call hard money that has to go to paying bills like pensions, the national debt, interest rate, things like that.
That's not enough.
To fund. And, you know, as a side note,
the president
wants to increase the national defense budget $1.5 trillion. So and I'm not against that. I'm just saying we have no wiggle room according to this report. And last year, the debt went up $2.7 trillion, the largest increase in the history of our country.
What I'm not
saying is the dollar's going to zero. What I'm not saying is that we're hiding money frivolously in the government, somebody's stealing it. What I am saying is we don't, again, have our financial house in order, which is evident, obviously, and there's no pathway to even come close to addressing this, which was supposed to be addressed to by multiple decades of Congress. Again, we're at the threshold of a major financial calamity. That's why we saw gold and silver rally so much and the dollar fall so much last year. The world has come to that conclusion. Now the reports by nonpartisan think tanks are saying the same thing. We should heed these warnings. The obvious is here, but that's why we're going to have this big rally in gold and silver. The war is not sidetracked that whatsoever.
Amazing that they just keep spending the way that they do. And that's going to be a major area of, thought warfare going on. The Keynesians that believe that you can have as much debt as you want and still function well, and others that are like myself tend to fall back on the open market concept and what's going on. There's really not a whole lot of room we agree on.
Well, you brought up a good point. The Keynesians think that emphatically. It does work to a certain extent, but once you reach the 100% level, where your outgo is much more than your incoming, and you have to put the interest payment on a credit card called issuing a treasury bill, and you're issuing debt upon top of debt upon top of debt. There is no fix to that except for admitting you can't finance your debt, and that's when the world pulls away from holding your debt, and that's what happened last year. For the first time in 250 years of the United States. We are at that point now. So the Keynesian theory now is broke. We are living, unfortunately, that nightmare. It's not a dream. There is the American dream, and the American dream is hard to get now because of the debt of our country and where we're headed in our spending policies with our Congress, and they don't seem to want to tap the brakes at all.
All right. I will hold off on my last question and just tell people to go to your website, and that is landmarkgold.com, or call and talk to one of your people at 844-604-2575. And, what are we looking for as far as gold and silver does in the short term and the long term? Your folks can explain all of that to my listeners. David, thank you so much for being with us today. I got to get to the news. I'm going to do that. So we will see you next week.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. David Fisher here on Dave Elswick Show. He, of course, with Landmark Gold, landmarkgold.com. The website and the phone number again is 844-604-2575. Time for the news.
The Danielle Gill Podcast, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
Actually lowering prices has rarely ever been an accomplishment a Democrat could even claim. The Democrat modus operandi is to use each crisis as an excuse to pass legislation which increases spending, gives more power to the government, and which will make new crises which they can't then use as an excuse to pass more horrible legislation.
Subscribe for free today on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com. In a world where more and more people decide what's right and wrong based on how they feel, what happens when feelings become the only moral standard? If emotions alone define truth, then who decides why murder, theft, or violence are wrong? And if someone feels justified in destroying property or harming others, on what basis can society say they're wrong? For 50 years, Dennis Prager has challenged audiences around the world to think deeply about the moral foundations of civilization. In his new book, If There Is No God, he confronts the biggest questions of human existence. Why does evil go unpunished? Why do innocent people suffer? And can morality survive without God? Whether a believer, a skeptic, or somewhere in between, this book offers serious answers for a morally confused age. Clear, provocative, and accessible. If There Is No God by Dennis Prager. Available now at pragerstore.com. That's pragerstore.com.
Town Hall News, where conservative voices cut through the noise from breaking headlines to fearless opinion. We report what matters without apology. Written by people who actually believe what you believe. Town Hall tells the stories the corporate press buries, from President Trump to Capitol Hill. From pivotal elections to your everyday lives. Join the movement at townhall.com. Real stories, real reporters, real conservative media.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this, Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes.
Yes.
When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Feeling like a family getaway, but don't want to go too far? Need a true adventure, but don't want to spend too much? Want a ton of stuff to do that's all in the same place? Welcome to Arkansas State Parks, where in a couple hours drive, you can change your scenery and your state of mind. Active adventures or just gorgeous views where you can catch your breath. We have 52 state parks to choose from. Plan your getaway at arkansasstateparks.com. Brought to you by this station and the Arkansas Broadcasters Association.
Now back to the Dave Elswick Show. 101.1. The Answer.
We're back here in the studio on the Dave Elswick Show, 8:33 on a Thursday, and we're expecting to get a call from Clint Lancaster any moment, and we will have him on to bring us up to date about what's happening with this recount that's affecting the Secretary of State's office. A recount, 6 counties are chosen, and then they recount the ballots in every one of those counties, and they rectify those numbers with who voted and things of that nature. Miller was the latest county that was doing this, and that was supposed to happen yesterday. But you also know that we had Clint on, and there was going to be a lawsuit filed for Brian Norris, and having.
Want to call me or you want me to call you?
I'm not sure they wanted another election or they wanted a different way that the counting was going on. People that were supposed to be able to watch the recount evidently didn't get to see the recount, and there's things that you have to do to make it that you can believe the recount that's taking place. So as soon as we get Clint on, we'll talk to him about Miller County, about what happened yesterday there, and then where do we go from there to rectify the Secretary of State material that's going on. All right, so we want to do that. Is Clint on the phone with us? Okay, he's not with us yet. So as soon as he joins us, we'll join him. Let's sort through the ceasefire a little bit because there's been questions about it. So I'll try to make it as clear as mud for you. How's that? Because it seems like very few people know exactly what's going on. So anyone who provides a definitive assessment of the ceasefire as a win for Trump or a win for Iran is probably just projecting. It could turn out well, and we've done substantive damage to the leading state sponsor of terror on the planet. Eli Lake says President Donald Trump just saved his war in Iran. America has won twice. First, the Iranians agreed to end their attacks on shipping through the Strait if the U.S. and Israeli military campaign stopped, according to a statement from Iran's foreign minister. That will greatly diminish the prospect of an oil shock and help keep markets calm. Trump's threat just may have worked. His high-stakes brinkmanship with an update to Richard Nixon's strategy to persuade the Soviet Union and China that he was a madman forced the Iranians to blink. But it's worse than that for the Islamic Republic. In 5 weeks of war, the regime has lost its navy, most of its missile launchers, and a good chunk of its defense industrial might has been destroyed, along with the top tier of its political and military leadership. Add to that the damage already done to its nuclear program in last June's 12-day war, and there are more than 900 pounds of uranium buried under the rubble of what used to be an underground enrichment facility. A year ago, Iran was on the brink of obtaining a nuclear weapon and the ballistic missiles to deliver it as far as Europe. Today, the regime's military has been reduced to a shell of itself. All of this leaves Iran's battered regime in a difficult position. It's survived for now, but it's never been poorer, weaker, or more isolated. Trump's domestic credit may grow that he has once again chickened out, but that barb doesn't sting at all. All right, Clint Lancaster does join us on the phone now. We'll bring you up to date on the Secretary of State's election. Miller County was the recount for yesterday. Clint, what happened?
So actually, the Miller County recount got rescheduled for today, and I am sitting in the parking lot of the Miller County Courthouse, just waiting to go in and get this recount started at 9.
Okay, so you'll have something on that later today. And are you posting online so people can see what's going on as far as this is concerned?
Dave, I would love to, except I stay so busy right now. We are in the midst of bringing an election contest for Saline County because we have done some further investigation and found some other troubling concerns about the security and the propriety and the integrity of the ballots themselves. So that's consuming a lot of my time at the moment, and I'm very hopeful that today this will go in, and we can go in here and there'll be no problems in Miller County. We won't have any of the issues we had in Saline. That's my hope, but you never know what you're going to find in a recount till you get in there.
Okay, so what would you tell my listeners about the Secretary of State election? How long do you think it's going to take to get all of this worked out?
It just kind of depends. Election contests are special types of lawsuit that move. As I always say, when you have election rights and election type of concerns, they're cases that move at the speed of rights. It's so fast. There's a 20-day time to answer, a short time, I think 7 days to appeal. It's just going to be, you can guarantee that no matter what the Pulaski County Circuit Court does, odds are very high someone's taking this up to the Supreme Court. And so, I think the remedy for Saline County is I don't think those results can be trusted. I think they're called into question. And if that's the case, then I think the judge has to throw out the election. And if he throws out the election and there's not another one, that will put Brian Norris over the top. It's concerning to me that, you know, this is Kim Hammer's home county, and it looks like the machinery it's one of the worst violations of ballot security I've seen in Arkansas in a long time.
Okay, so right now it's still up in the air until you know, and everybody knows, you know, that the count can be, you know, accepted in Saline County, correct?
Correct. That's right. That's a big question right now.
So if they can't go back and do a recount, from what I just heard you say, I thought you said that Brian would be declared the winner then.
That's what it looks like. I mean, this is all preliminary on my part. I'm having to move pretty quickly to make determinations and get documents going, keep the team organized, on the litigation side and things like that. So it's preliminary, but I do believe if the judge throws out the Saline County election, the primary runoff for Secretary of State, then Brian Norris holds the majority of the votes.
I have a question for you, Clint. How do they count the machine ballots? Because I know that it's supposed to be, when you leave there, it's supposed to be anonymous, right? It's not. So how do they? Because I know in Pulaski County, you don't get like a little printout unless that's during early elections. It's so confusing for folks. But how do they count those on the computer?
So yeah, in Pulaski County on election day, you're doing hand-marked paper ballots that are run through the DS200 tabulator. But for other counties, we have these ballots and they print out your vote selections, and then they print out barcodes that you can't read, and then the machine's reading the barcodes. In every recount I've been to so far, they're doing a hand recount according to how you count paper ballots. And so they're actually, when you go in, you'll see a box of ballots. They'll open up with two poll workers there. They sort the ballots out for Norris and for Hammer, and then they count them into stacks of 10. Then once they do all that, they count up the total number and see if it matches what the machine said. And so
it has their name on the printout.
Yeah, it has the candidate's name on the printout.
Okay.
All right. So this is really, this all has become very, very confusing. And it seems to me, I don't, Arkansans find out that this judge throws this out. That you're basically telling every voter that voted in this instance twice that maybe your vote didn't even count.
Yes, I mean, that's what it's that's what it's looking like. It's just, when you can't trust the integrity of an election, people use the word disenfranchisement wrong all the time. Disenfranchisement is not your vote didn't get counted. Disenfranchisement is when you say, hey, like that whole thing about giving women the right to vote, let's not do that. That was a bad idea. So that's disenfranchisement, when you completely lose the ability. Your ability to vote, your vote should be counted. I don't dispute that. But what I do dispute is what happens when you don't know, right? What happens when you show up and there's ballot boxes full of ballots that aren't sealed properly? What happens when we don't have a chain of custody saying these ballots came from this person to this person? How do you know then that the ballots that are in that box are accurate, or what was present on election day, or weren't manipulated somehow? So I mean, it calls into question the veracity of the election, and it's a sad state when people's votes don't count, but it's even more sad when they don't count because the election officials didn't do something right.
So, I mean, we got a Secretary of State right now, and he's there until the beginning of the new year, and then whoever wins this election will take over. So taking that time frame, that's quite a bit of time, but how long do you think this is going to continue? Is it just how long it takes the court to figure out where the heck we're going? Because it sounds like to me, we don't even know what the court's going to say yet.
That's correct. I would expect it to be resolved within 45 to 60 days, which is light speed fast for litigation anywhere, especially in Arkansas.
All right. So like 3 to 6 months is what you're saying.
Up to, I would think so. I wouldn't say 6 months. I'd say 45 to 60 days. So maybe a month and a half to 2 months.
Okay. All right. So hopefully, and I say that word hopefully, that we'll be able, the people of Arkansas will be able to say, well, we can trust what the result of this election is, because the way I look at it right now, I don't know what to trust and what not to trust.
Well, and that's a sad state of affairs for a right so important in America, the free and fair elections. I mean, my client feels the same way as you, Mr. Elswick.
Yeah, I'm sure that, I'm sure this is not fun for the people who are running for the office. So what's the next step then? Miller County recount?
Miller County, we're going to start this recount here in a little bit, and then headed back to Central Arkansas to complete our litigation docs and get that ball moving.
Hey, Clint, can you tell the listeners who might not have listened yesterday exactly what the issues are that you in Saline County again?
So there's a number of issues. So number one, the law says that the candidate is supposed to be able to be within 3 feet of and monitor the counting of the ballots, and they would not let me, who was Brian Norris's representative, close enough to monitor what was going on. At one point, I was back there behind the little line where the state board was, and everybody else that was helping count and watching. But I took a picture of a ballot box that didn't have a proper seal, and suddenly it's like, oh, you can't be back here. And so that was a problem because, you can't see them counting ballots, and they had some problems. They're counting them. It took them a while to reconcile. They had ballots intermingled that shouldn't have been intermingled. When I'm talking about the stacks that were separated, then, you had a poll worker that had not taken the oath. And I saw where a representative on Facebook said, oh, she was there. You're lying, Clint. Well, you know what? Trevor Valines put up a video, and that person was not present when the oath was given. And when I asked to see the oath sheets, they took it over there and had her sign it real quick. So the law says you're supposed to have taken that oath before you handle a ballot. They let the executive director of the state board count and handle ballots, even though he didn't take the oath. And I mean, he's got to take the oath. That's what the statute says.
So they let her sign an oath that she didn't take?
That's correct. That's correct. And so, yeah, those were some of them. Then we've got in there, and the ballots were supposed to be sealed with numbered seals. That didn't happen. We just have tape over them and a sticker. And so, that's not permissible in Arkansas. That's not how they're supposed to be handled. We have some issues with transport of ballots and chain of custody that we can't verify the chain of custody. And so the standard here is when the problems with the election are so robust it calls the outcome into serious question or doubt. And so I think that we're there. I mean, let's just look at this in a criminal context, right? If you get arrested for allegedly possessing cocaine and they don't keep up with who took it from you, where they put it in the evidence locker, where it went to the crime lab, then you have no way to know for any way that substance that they took off you is the same substance that they're showing up in court with.
Yeah, and they can't just sign. They can't just sign the when they ask for it.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct. Well, guys, thank you for letting me be on your show.
Yeah, we'll let you go.
Here and get this thing going.
Good luck.
All right.
Thank you. We'll talk to y'all probably tomorrow.
All right. Talk
Bye-bye.
to you later. All right. So that was Clint Lancaster. He's at the Miller County recount right now. They're going to do that. But this is just unbelievable about what's going on in Saline County.
And I don't think people are taking it seriously from the internet. They're mocking it. Like they're like, just take it. And you lost. You just take the results. Like
no, you can't if you haven't kept the ballots sequestered the way they're supposed to be, you don't know that the ballots that you have are the correct ballots. That's just the way that works. Look, I lived up by Chicago for so many years that I know what they do to cheat. Okay. I know what they do to cheat. And what I'm watching here is you're in Saline County, the people of that are in charge in there, whoever is in charge, I don't know who it is and why they're not standing up and saying, hey, you can trust this because for what Clint has said and taking him at his word, I don't trust a damn thing that's being said from Saline County right now. Not a thing.
Nope.
And when you're making fun of, well, we'll just let her sign that she took the oath.
Right.
No, you got to take the damn oath.
It's like, and then it's like they don't realize, oh, I put a video up of the, it's like when you watch the world's stupidest criminals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
I don't know if that is the case, but here's what I do know. There's too many questions now about what was going on in Saline County, and they have got to step forward and put their hand on the Bible and talk about what did exactly happen for this election. And if they did it as badly as they did in Florida a few years back or in Philadelphia a few less years back, then Saline County goes down in history as being, just totally inept.
it ruins the whole election integrity for the state.
Yeah. And if you're in the middle of this and you've been, playing fast and loose with the rules, you're the ones that have to carry the blame. That's just how it is. And I want to know everybody that's to blame for this. All right, we got to get a break in. Let's do that. News coming up at the top of the hour. We'll be having Enrico joining us in the next hour. We'll talk to him about Epic Fury and, where's Iran standing. Look, Iran is a shell of itself now. Absolutely a shell of itself. And it's time for them to wake up and smell the coffee. There's no doubt about it. And if they try to shut down the Strait of Hormuz again, it's up to NATO to take care of that. The Secretary General was in yesterday, and when they had they were talking about what was happening and why NATO had not done their part in the Straits of Hormuz. He admitted he understood why Trump is so ticked off, because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. It's that simple. All right, take a break. We'll be back. We got more for you here on the Dave Elswick Show. All right, I'm told that we have taken care of everything that's supposed to be taken up about. I saw Enrico walk in. Let's go ahead and bring him on over to the studio, and we'll get him situated in here with me for the rest of this coming hour to talk about what's happening over in the Middle East. I mean, seriously, look, if you think what's going on here in, what is happening with this recount for the Secretary of State and whatnot, then I can tell you your chances of understanding what's going on in the Middle East is probably about 0 to below 0. War Secretary Hegseth, Joint Chiefs Air Force General Dan Kane, held a press briefing yesterday. Secretary Hegseth is quoted as saying, by any measure, Epic Fury decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come. You see, in less than 40 days, one of our most combatant commands, Central Command, using less than 10% of America's total combat power, dismantled one of the world's largest militaries. The world's leading state sponsor of terrorism proved utterly incapable of defending itself, its people, or its territory. We untied just a fraction of our strength, and Iran suffered a devastating military defeat. Together with our Israeli partners, America's military achieved every single objective that they had planned, on schedule, exactly as laid out from day one. Iran's Navy is at the bottom of the sea, whether it's the Soleimani's class, their frigate class, their prize drone aircraft carriers, submarines, mine layers, they're all sunk. Iran's air force has been wiped out. Iran no longer has an air defense, any sort of a comprehensive air defense system. We own their skies. Their missile program is functionally destroyed. Launchers, production facilities, and existing stockpiles depleted and decimated and almost completely ineffective. That was the Secretary of War. The General Kane, who's the head of the Joint Chiefs, said this: "Let us be clear, a ceasefire is a pause, and the joint force remains ready, if ordered or called upon, to resume combat operations with the same speed and precision as we've demonstrated over the last 38 days. And we hope that that is not going to be the case." In other words, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is hoping that Iran will open their eyes and understand where they're at, and that they are on the edge of being obliterated completely. They will be on the ash heap of history completely, and people won't even remember them when it's all said and done. I'm sitting here with Enrico right now, and from an Israeli point of view, and the people you're talking to from back home right now, how is this looking to them?
The bottom line is really.
Let's see. Let's try that.
There you go.
There we go.
Israelis are definitely looking at it as an absolute win, right? But the fighting, especially in that section of the world, is not over. Right before I came up here, I was talking to Lieutenant Colonel Eyal Dror, commander of Operation Good Neighbor. He lives in the north of Israel. So for him, it's really about Hezbollah and Lebanon. And the bottom line is, what's going to happen tomorrow? That's the question.
Okay, so let me talk to you about what's going on in the northern part of Israel. The Hezbollah is supposed to be behind that river over there to the north, correct?
Right.
They signed on to do that. They agreed that they would pull back and not be able to be be close to Israel, to be able to just lob missile after missile after them. So when we come back, I want you to talk about that, because what it seems like Netanyahu is doing right now is nothing more than pushing back to what should have been done, 20 years ago. We'll be back in a moment. Talk to you. We got the news coming your way here on Dave Elswick Show.
Find us at 1011fmtheanswer.com. Download our app, stream us 24/7, or watch us at snc.tv. KDXE, Kamek Village, Little Rock.
I'm Rich Thomason. Apparently hanging by a thread, the Iran ceasefire is holding so far, but one sticking point has been Israel's ongoing attacks on Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. Vice President Vance says that really should not be an issue at all.
If Iran wants to let this negotiation fall apart in a conflict where they were getting hammered over Lebanon, which has nothing to do with them and which the United States never once said was part of the ceasefire, that's ultimately their choice. We think that would be dumb, but that's their choice.
The Israeli attacks on Hezbollah in Lebanon have prompted Iran to close the Strait of Hormuz again. President Trump warns Iran that the U.S. military and all of its firepower is still nearby, suggesting he will not hesitate to use it if he has to.
Following the president's White House meeting with NATO's Secretary General Mark Rutte, the future of the U.S. relationship with the alliance remains clouded.
Since the start of the Iran war, President Trump has been angered by NATO allies for ignoring his call to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz, repeatedly saying,
I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test.
and questioning whether the U.S. should leave the alliance.
It's certainly something that we should think about.
He met privately with Rutte at the White House, who was expected to try to smooth things over. But afterward, Trump posted an all-caps social media post, again saying, quote, NATO wasn't there when we needed them. Ben Thomas, Washington.
One key measure of inflation remained elevated in February before the war in Iran spiked gas prices, a sign that everyday expenses were higher even before the conflict began. On Wall Street, the Dow is down 41 points, NASDAQ off 63. More on these stories, townhall.com.
If you don't care about saving 50% off your wireless bill for the same 5G coverage the big guys are charging a fortune for, maybe you care about keeping jobs in America. Pure Talk does. They've pledged to run their entire operation from this country, including all their customer service. Or maybe you care about our nation's veterans. Pure Talk does. They've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to America's Warrior Partnership, a fantastic organization working hard to prevent veteran suicide. Or maybe you care about closing America's skills gap. Pure Talk does. They're a proud supporter of MicroWorks. They're helping my foundation train the next generation of skilled workers. Don't get me wrong. Saving money's great, and you'll save plenty with Pure Talk. But if you want to be in business with people who share your values, dial pound 250, say micro, and switch to an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
A British lawyer will lead an inquiry into crimes committed during the rule of a longtime Gambian dictator who now lives in exile. The BBC's Thomas Nardi says there were hundreds of killings and kidnappings during the 22-year reign of Yahya Jammeh.
Martin Hacker's appointment follows recommendations by the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, which concluded its inquiries into Jammeh-era abuses. The commission called for criminal accountability and reparations. The cases will be prosecuted before the High Court in Banjul, while significant and cross-border crimes will be referred to the ECOWAS Special Tribunal for the Gambia. Some perpetrators have already been convicted abroad under the principle of universal jurisdiction in Germany and US.
The world's first facility for permanently disposing of spent nuclear fuel set to begin operations in Finland. Townhall.com. Search for victims underway at the scene of a deadly construction site accident in Pennsylvania.
Officials say one person is dead, 2 others are missing after a parking garage under construction in Philadelphia collapsed Wednesday afternoon. Mayor Sherelle Parker said part of a roof of the garage fell and triggered a progressive collapse of connected sections across all 7 levels. Crews rescued 3 people, one who later died at a hospital. Philadelphia Fire Commissioner Jerry Thompson says the building is unstable and must be taken apart in order to search the entire structure. I'm Donna Warder.
At their March policy meeting, more Federal Reserve policymakers indicated a willingness to consider an interest rate hike this year as higher gas prices threaten to aggravate inflation. That is insight from the newly released minutes of the Fed's meeting last month. More on these stories, townhall.com.
The news never stops, and neither does your schedule. That's why we're here, keeping you up to date with all the biggest stories of the day. We're 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
All right, 9 o'clock hour.
Dave Elswick Show on a Thursday. Tomorrow, let me remind you, it's Friday, and that's a good thing because we'll be getting ready to go into the weekend. Today's a good day, too, because we're going to have Enrico on here during this hour, and then Matt Smith will be in on the next hour. Tomorrow, we'll be joined by State Senator Mark Johnson in the early hours of the show up until 10 o'clock when Razorback Zach is going to come on. And we'll talk about the fiscal session that started yesterday and get a report from the state senator about what's happening with that. So we'll keep you up to date on all of it. And we're, this whole Epic Fury operation, we're trying to keep you up on that. Here's how I see the way Iran is acting right now. Enrico, you tell me if I'm wrong. You just got done playing them in a football game. The score on the scoreboard was home team. That's going to be us. 85. Visiting team. That's Iran. 0. And then you meet up to talk to the press after the game. And the Iranians get on and say, did you believe the victory that we had today out on the football field? And everybody says, yes, you didn't win, you lost. And they said, no, we're telling you we won.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what they're basically saying. They're saying they still have the same amount of power. They're saying that they whooped our butts. Folks, you just can't lie your way out of this one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what Iran is trying to do. I mean, I don't know, has their PAO people even admitted that they're having talks yet?
I think in the last few hours, one of their leaders said that if there were talks, they would go to Islamabad or something like that. Yeah, it's ridiculous. The bottom line
is
this.
in Pakistan,
yeah,
right? Okay.
The bottom line is they are, I wouldn't call them delusional. They're playing the same game they've been playing for decades.
It would have been like Hitler,
yeah,
still in his bunker. He hadn't put a bullet through his brain yet and said, we're winning World War II.
Exactly. I mean, and the only difference now, these are the same people that convinced the West that, from the river to the sea, right? Palestine will be free, right? You go and ask them which river, which sea, they have no idea. So these are the same people that are playing the same old games. The bottom line is they lost, and they lost miserably.
They lost big.
Big. And the only reason why we did not go in there and completely obliterate everything is because we value human lives, and we wanted to protect the women, the children, the innocent Iranian citizens that all they want to do is live their lives, right? And we all want Iran to go back to pre-79, we want the country of Iran that Israel had every intention of having this wonderful relationship with, and had pre-regime, right? And had. So they lost big time. And let me just remind the listeners, we're still technically within that 4 to 6 week window,
yes,
right? So even if there's a ceasefire, it's happening within that window. All right, let's not forget that, because framing is important. When you frame something, and this is how Iran was able to claim all these false claims for decades about Israel, because Israel is small. It's a very small country. We will never be able to win the PR war, right? Like, we will never be able to, 16 million Jews can't overexpress what billions of Muslims are saying around the world. So same here. The only reason why they're not able to do it right now is because they're fighting America too.
Yeah.
Right? America joined the fight, and their own neighbors are joining the fight. And at this point, it's end of story. You're not going to win either the PR war, and you're not going to win the actual war. You're not going to win anything because we took control over your sky, over your water, over your resources, and we expressed restraint, we expressed mercy, we expressed all the things that a Western civilization expresses in a conflict. However, though, I will remind everyone, it is not the West. When you're fighting over there, you're not fighting Western countries. The only Western country there is Israel.
Right.
And Israel is looks up to America and shares the same values, the same principles, the same freedoms, the same everything. And when you're fighting in that region, you're not fighting any Western country. You're fighting people that, to them, martyrdom is an honor, right? Like they want their people to go and explode and kill Westerners and
it
infidels.
doesn't matter if you live there and you go, you want me to go stand around a power plant? I'm not going to do that.
Right.
They expect you are part of the state.
Right. I mean, look, if we like it or not, some Israeli officials said some really, really powerful things in the last 24 hours. Bezalel Smotrich, Israel's Minister of Finance, said we will expand our borders in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, because that is the only thing that our neighbors understand in our region. That is the only thing they understand.
All right. So I want to talk to you about Lebanon. The terror group Hezbollah signed a treaty about 20 years ago that they would pull back behind this river. I forget what the name
Litani.
is. Yeah,
River.
Litani. Okay, but then they didn't do it.
They didn't do it.
Now, what Netanyahu is doing right now is just pushing them back to where they're supposed to be right now.
Right.
He's developing the buffer zone that was supposed to have already happened for Israel here.
Right. And I mean, as of earlier today, I think I told you earlier, I just, right before I got here, I talked to Lieutenant Colonel Eyal Dror, commander of Operation Good Neighbor in Syria. Incredible guy. Hopefully we can have him here in Little Rock soon. But he lives in the north of Israel. He lives on the border with Syria and Lebanon, very, very close. And what he told me today, he said, I told him what's going on with the ceasefire. He started laughing. He said, he started doing this. He's like, yeah, that's a good story. Ceasefire. I don't think Hezbollah got the memo, but also because with these 10 requirements presented by Iran, there will never be a ceasefire under those conditions. However, though, I think it's a good framing, and Trump and Netanyahu are playing this game brilliantly. I got to give it to them. When it comes to the psychology of influence and psychology of power, the way they're framing it is, there will be a stop to this. You just don't know it yet, right? Like, we're going to tell you there is a stop to it. You just don't know it yet. Negotiation 101, if you want your target, if you want the person you're negotiating with to immediately, you want to increase the chances of them agreeing with you, you go in and you don't say what it is you want them to do. You start by saying what's going to happen if they don't do it, right? Any good negotiator, any good closer knows, look, this is what's going to happen if you don't do it. And I just gave you a taste. I just gave you, 4.5 weeks of a taste of what our joint capabilities are. And we're fighting multiple fronts. I mean, let's just remember here, Israel is fighting everywhere right now. It's fighting in Lebanon, it's fighting in Iran, it's fighting in the increased attacks coming in from Judea and Samaria. We're still not done with Hamas in Gaza. I don't know, I guess people forgot about that for a second, but we're still not done with Hamas in Gaza. And Israel is handling all that beautifully, Dave. I mean, when you see Israel's capabilities right now, we are dominating, and we expressed and we're showing that Israel is stronger than it's ever been. We're controlling Iranian skies.
So let me ask you, how do you look at the UAE? They say that America now is their number one protector, and that they're all in with us as far as what's happening over in the Middle East. Is that where it's going to end up at with the rest of the Middle Eastern countries with Iran? They understand that the United States is the only person, the only superpower that can, completely bring them to their knees.
I think so. I believe so, because people at the end of the day, it's not like what it was 40 years ago. 40 years ago, with the lack of media, lack of social media, news, accessibility to news, right? People were truly oppressed, right? But today, even a country like Iran, even a country like China, right? Like, they can try to oppress their people all they want, but their people are going to find ways to see what's happening in the world.
Right.
And because of the availability of it and the accessibility to news, they're seeing what's possible. So the Iranian people, Chinese people, they're looking at the US and they're like, wait a second, that's an option? Oh, that's great. That's what we want, right? And in that sense, you have countries in the UAE that have adopted it, right? 2021 Abraham Accords, right? Israel now has direct flights and has had direct flights from Tel Aviv to Dubai, right? And Israelis are in the UAE. UAE citizens are in Israel. Like, there's a good exchange of commerce, business, information, and it's beautiful. And people are seeing now, hey, this works, right? When you show someone this works, now they want in. You gave them a taste. Now they're like, wait, no, yeah, we want more of that, right? It's the difference between starving on stale bread for decades and then suddenly realizing there's steak, right?
Okay.
Like, it's usually now they want the steak. Now they want to be able to say, hey, let's build, let's do. I mean, you look at all the money that's in the UAE, right? And remember, they're still Middle Easterners, right? So they don't look at the Middle East through Western lens.
Well, they sure don't look at Iran through a Western lens.
Exactly. I said it last week on the show. Pay close attention to what's happening in the UAE, because that's their brothers and sisters. I mean, those are Muslim-led countries. Pay close attention to what they're saying. If you don't want to believe us, look, I mean, if for some reason you don't want to believe the West, you don't want to believe the US, you don't want to believe Israel, you've been so brainwashed that no matter what we say, you don't want to believe it, believe them. Believe them. They're not just close to it, they're part of it.
Yeah, believe Saudi Arabia, believe Qatar, believe any of those countries that now have turned their back on Iran.
Exactly. I mean, when you look at Hezbollah is an Iranian proxy, right? Hamas is an Iranian proxy. All these terrorist proxies led by Iran. Look, as of this morning, Hezbollah is increasing its attacks on Israel, increasing the missiles going into Israel. That doesn't sound like a ceasefire to me.
No, I agree.
That really doesn't sound like more missiles and more attacks does not sound like a ceasefire to me. That's why when I call someone like Lieutenant Colonel Eyal Dro and I say, hey, is there an actual ceasefire on the ground? He started laughing, right? Because the idea is this. Israel, just like the US, they're very much aligned with their vision and what they want to achieve. And they have achieved. I mean, look, if you look at, we took Iran back decades. I mean, we took them back decades, but we didn't just take them back decades militarily. Psychologically, we took them back decades. Remember, you and I talked about on this show that there's always a bigger picture, right? When someone tells me something, I don't address what they say. I uncover what's behind what they're telling me. So when someone tells me, and by the way, it goes from anything, like the most basic conversations I have with day-to-day, my friends, my family, my colleagues, or my team members, and politicians. And politicians do it the best, right? You never address the question. You uncover what's behind the question. I never lead with, oh, this is why this is. I don't ever justify myself. I say, what makes you, what gives you that impression, right? Because I want them to keep speaking. That's what the US and Israel are doing right now. They're uncovering what's going on behind the scenes, as they have been for decades. let them do their job. They're actually really, really good at it. And if anything, the one thing we've proved that the U.S.-Israel alliance is the strongest alliance in the history of humanity and the world. And what we've been able to do is, again, and I want to put an emphasis on this, we did not just take Iran back decades militarily. We took them decades backwards psychologically. And that, I think, is what people are afraid to say, because that's really what they wanted to do. It was never about only, right? It was never only about the Strait of Hormuz or the uranium enrichment sites. It was never just about that. It was about how do we break them psychologically.
All right, we got to take a break. Let's do that. It's 9:21. Enrico is with us for the hour. It's the Dave Elswick Show. We're, of course, talking about what's going over in Iran right now. We'll have to touch base on Hamas because they're not getting rid of their weapons. So that's part two of what they're supposed to be doing, and we'll find out, what might be happening over there at this time. So Dave Elswick Show, 101.1, The Answer.
Attention. If you suffer from consistent pain in your joints caused by arthritis, overuse, or injury, you may be a candidate for a revolutionary therapy that could revitalize damaged tissue. This approach can provide long-lasting relief from pain in your knees, shoulders, hips, and other joints with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. To find out if you're a viable candidate, you may request a free consultation from QC Kinetics by calling 501-833-5348. Instead of masking the symptoms, it goes to the root of the problem to resolve it at its source. Already used by thousands of satisfied patients nationwide, this joint pain therapy is available right now to the public, but only for qualified candidates. Again, to find out if you're a viable candidate for this therapy, you may request a free consultation by calling QC Kinetics at 501-833-5348. That's 501-833-5348.
What is dedication? The thing that drives me every day as a dad is Dariana. We call him Day for short. Every day he's hungry for something, whether it's attention, affection, knowledge. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that when he's no longer under my wing, that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is you don't need to know all the answers. The craziest thing was believing that your dad knew everything. So as a dad, you felt like you had to know everything. You had to get everything right. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as it's coming from love, then, it kind of starts to work itself out. I want him to be able to sit back one day and go, we worked together, we did a good job.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Methodist Family Health has more than a century of providing the best possible care to those who may need our help. As we move forward through our second century, we are adding another nonprofit behavioral hospital for children and adolescents to our complete continuum of care. No matter the names of our programs, Methodist Children's Behavioral Hospital, Arkansas Cares, Methodist Counseling Clinics, we are all Methodist Family Health. Many names, one care.
The Dave Elswick Show is back. 101.1, The Answer.
Enrico is here on the Dave Elswick Show with me. He was born in Israel, raised in Israel. He's an American citizen. You carry what dual citizenship then? Am I correct?
Well, triple actually, because
really?
My Italian one, right? So
you
Israeli, Italian, and American now. Yeah.
He's kind of like me, Indian American, but my kids are Italian and Indian. What?
Yeah, well,
Native American.
Here's the key about Enrico being Italian. He doesn't talk with his hands enough.
Oh, I do, and I'm not even Italian.
He's not talking. I grew up with Italian friends, and I think it's funny when I talk to my wife about having dinner over there, and yelling across the table at each other and things.
Throwing
of that.
spaghetti.
Yeah, that's just the way that they do things. I used to love the Gamilaries and some of the other folks that
That's the thing that we don't get down here, like in Chicago and St. Louis. Like I worked on, okay, it was kosher back then, so I'm gonna say it. Okay, it was called Dago Hill. That's what we called it. But that's what we called it, and that's what they called it. But that's where all the Italian restaurants were, and now it's the Hill. But great food, great. And I worked at some of those, and just Mama Campisis, I remember that, and they would yell at each other in Italian, and you're like, that's just normal. That's just, they're just the mom and the son would be yelling back and forth at each other, and then they'd be like, "Okay, hi, honey," it's like crazy.
Well, sometimes in the evenings.
Yeah, the father of the Gamilaries, Mike, he used to love to invite me over because he was a Democrat. I was not by a long shot, and he and I would get into some really kind of heated exchanges. But after it was all said and done, we'd hug each other and kiss each other's neck and go home.
Yeah.
That's the way that it was.
But they don't experience that here, like in Arkansas, like up north, like the big cities like Chicago, where they would come in.
It's big ethnic areas.
Yeah. We like I said the same thing. So I know what you're talking about. Like big like here's a little location here for the Dutch, which we call Dogtown. Here's the Italians. You have the Chinese. That's how it is. But here it's a little different, I guess.
They all look at each other as being Americans, but they all have specializations, as the way I used to put it, that you're going to run into. I mean, New York's the same way. You got Little Italy.
Yeah.
You got, you got Chinatown.
Well, DC
you got all
too.
those areas.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it is.
My wife uses Italian sometimes if I'm not responding to her, right? Like if I'm sitting down, I'm reading something.
Well, that's
get your attention.
That's the language of love.
Yeah, I mean, she'll say if she was asking me the other day, like, hey, what do you want to eat? What do you want to eat? And I wasn't responding in English, so she was like, "Cosa vuoi mangiare, amore? Cosa vuoi mangiare?" And then I was like, "Oh."
Got your attention. You have selective hearing, Enrico.
That's funny. That's good. That's good. All right, let's talk about Hamas. Here's what's going on with Hamas. We did a story just yesterday about Hamas. Hamas is supposed to be disarming. The operative word is supposedly. They're supposedly to be disarming. They're not doing that. And they're going to be forced into doing it because the Israelis are paying very strict attention to what's going on in Gaza, and they're taking care of these cells of terrorists that are trying to pull themselves back together again.
Yeah,
and you guys aren't letting them do that.
Yeah, no, we cannot. We cannot allow that to happen. IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, just less than 24 hours ago, published that they took out a Hamas terrorist that was under the disguise of an Al Jazeera reporter. Right? That's what they do.
That's been a known truth for a long time, that the people who work for Al Jazeera are also working for Hamas.
Right. I mean, and this is what so many people in the West just don't understand. It's not always what you see. Just like with Netanyahu and Trump, it's never what they say. It's what they don't say that you need to pay attention to, right? It's the psychology behind what it is that they're doing, not the literally what it is that they're trying to do. Same with Hamas. Hamas is another Iranian proxy, right? And unfortunately, when you're looking at they're one of the worst. They're the worst ones, right? When you look back at October 7th and how they operated and what they did and the things that they did, it is just sometimes even me as an Israeli, right, that grew up in the south of Israel. Even I'm having a hard time remembering the horrors of October 7th and like the things that they did. And then it's a good reminder that they will do everything that they can to trick the West, to show them, no, Israel just killed the reporter. Yeah, but that reporter was a Hamas terrorist. Oh, they bombed a hospital. Yeah, but that hospital was a Hamas headquarters, and they used that hospital to stockpile, missiles and weapons, and they just happened so innocently to use their own civilians as shields.
Well, we've saw that when the Iranians started putting innocent women and children around their power plants and had them walking the bridges.
Right. And I want to quote someone else too. It's not a quote, I'm paraphrasing, but I mean, she's incredible. Dr. Einat Wilf. She's a former member of the Israeli parliament, the Israeli Knesset, and I've listened to her on multiple occasions, and she's remarkable. Her analysis of the Middle East, and specifically the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, is just outstanding. And she keeps saying, and she kind of goes back to like the whole concept of what Golda Meir was saying, right? You have one side that would really love to see peace and that would really love to see us having a two-state solution, because the Jewish people, Israelis, are constantly going to fight for one thing, for their rights, freedoms, and ability for their own state. And for, we keep saying this. What do the Jewish people want? Self-determination. So the Jewish people are going to just continue fighting for their own self-determination. But the Arabs in that region will continue to fight for one specific thing, that the Jews don't have self-determination. So you have one side that just wants to be free, and you have one side that wants the other side to not be free. And that's the problem. That's why there will never be a two-state solution. Look, years ago, I remember even, up to my military service, I was a big supporter of the whole two-state solution thing, right? But now, 2026, what are the chances of a two-state solution? I think they're pretty slim. Look, the Jewish person in me, the Israeli in me, always has hope, right? I'm hopeful for a two-state solution. I want to believe that that's an option. But unfortunately, our counterparts, the other side, keeps showing us and keeps proving time after time again that they cannot be trusted, that we just can't trust you. We can't develop a sustainable relationship based on trust and mutual respect that we can actually move forward as a two-state solution. Israel has agreed to a two-state solution multiple times. Unfortunately, when you look back at in 2005 when Hamas was elected in Gaza, when you look at what Hamas did to its own people, right? Because let me just make sure that people remember this. And if they don't know, then I'll explain it. Hamas is not just a terrorist organization. It is also a party in the Palestinian Authority government, right? So when they were elected in Gaza, they went against Fatah, right? Who controls the Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, under President Mahmoud Abbas, right? When you look back at what Hamas did to Fatah members, so Palestinians, their own people, right? You realize why there will never be a two-state solution. There will never be peace. Because if this is what they're willing to do to their own people, throw them off the roofs of 14-floor buildings, and then parade their bodies in the streets of Gaza, I don't think they're going to take too kindly to us. No. If that's what they do to their own people. So yes, to go back to what you were saying originally, they're not disarming. They're actually doing exactly the opposite. They're doing everything in their power to stay in control of Gaza, to use fear tactics against their own people, to make sure that the citizens of Gaza can't overthrow Hamas. And Israel is paying very, very close attention to it. And it just goes to show how much restraint Israel and the U.S. have expressed, because the reality is this: Israel is fighting in Gaza, it's fighting in Lebanon, it's fighting in Iran, it's fighting within itself, and winning.
Yeah.
Go figure, right? We're winning. And I think that's the one thing the Muslim world, the Arab world, is slowly coming to grasp with. And you see it with the UAE, you see it with the Saudis, you see it, more and more Arab countries are coming to terms with the fact that Israel is and always will be. Like, we're not going anywhere. So you might as well come to the table and have peace with us, and let's make some, let's make the world a better place. Let's make money. Let's have businesses. Let's exchange goods and services. Let's do this together. Because again, I say it always, and I'll continue to say it, together is the only way forward. And even the UAE understands it now. There are direct flights from Tel Aviv to Dubai, and Israelis are there. The UAE citizens are there. The Saudis are coming to the table, right, and saying, hey, this actually works, right? So when you give people a taste of what could be, now they want it all. And I think overall, we're going into a very, very good direction. Because the US and Israel are playing this game beautifully. Look, and I want to make sure people understand. In my position, in my responsibility as the executive director of the Jewish Federation, I've never sat here in your show and said anything about my personal opinions, political opinions, anything like that. I just say it as it is. I just talk about what is legitimately relevant. Right? I quoted Bezalel Smotrich earlier today, but I didn't tell you if I support him or not, right? I didn't say I support Bezalel Smotrich. I didn't say I don't support him. I said this is what an Israeli official said, and there is some truth to it. I want to make sure people understand. I am not over here taking political sides. I'm taking the side of the free world. I'm taking the side that continuously fights for our freedoms, our shared values, and these incredible privileges that, as you just said, I'm an American citizen now, and I cherish and value my rights here as an American, and I'll continue to fight for them. That's the side I'm taking.
All right, we're going to take a break. We miss news. Just know that, but you're hearing news as we speak here on the air. You're understanding more about what's going on in the Middle East than you would if I didn't have Enrico Rivera on here on the Dave Elswick Show. Again, he's the executive director of the Jewish Federation of Arkansas. He's got a microphone for his use at whatever time he needs, and we're typically going to have him here at 9 o'clock in the morning on Thursdays. With that said, here's your break. We'll pay a bill or two, and then we'll be back on the Dave Elswick Show.
Nothing's playing. What?
America is at a tipping point. To ensure we stay the land of the free and home of the brave, you need to be informed and engaged. That's why we're here. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
He's Donald Trump's #1 enemy in Congress, Chicago politician Dick Durbin. Now, Durbin has a new scheme. He's doing the dirty work to benefit corporate megastores. Durbin's bill could cut corners on your credit card security, putting your personal data at risk. Big chain retailers and warehouse stores want to inflate their profits, and liberal Dick Durbin would help them do it. Tell senators, say no to the megastores and Dick Durbin. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
The price of gold is surging to new highs. It's already topped $5,000 an ounce. The only question is, how much money will you make when gold hits $6,000 an ounce? Investors like you have made small fortunes off the run-up in precious metals, and not just with gold stocks or ETFs. Many have taken advantage of a little-known gold investment officially released by the U.S. government. Now you can too, when you get our free special report from veteran trader and investor Jim Woods. It's called Gold Wealth Boosters. This new report outlines amazing gold investments that have returned 12 to 26 times more than investing in gold bullion itself. Given the uncertainty in world markets, the investments outlined in Jim Woods' Gold Wealth Boosters report are crucial in 2026, and it's free. To get your free Gold Wealth Boosters report, log on to EagleGoldReport.com. EagleGoldReport.com. That's EagleGoldReport.com.
Scott Jennings can see the real problem.
Democrats in Chicago. First, they blamed Sheridan Gorman for her own death. They said that she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. No, I think the real problem here, folks, is that American citizens like Sheridan Gorman are being murdered by people who should not be here.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at noon, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on 101.1 The Answer. The conservative voice of Arkansas. The Dave Elswick Show on 101.1 The Answer.
You know, there's a lot of people who continually attack the president, and they're asking the question, the president says maybe we should leave NATO, and the Democrats go into a hissy fit when that's brought up. Well, understand that yesterday afternoon, the Secretary General of NATO, Rudy, was on CNN with Jake Tapper, and this is what he admitted to. He said, "It is true that not all European nations have lived up to the commitments of NATO. I totally understand the president is disappointed about it."
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to look. NATO is supposed to be helping with the Strait of Hormuz. They're supposed to be helping us get our aircraft to the places that we need to get them to, and yet they take away our ability to use their airspace.
Mm-hmm.
Spain's done it. Now France has done it as well. And the UK started to do it, and Starmer found out real fast that was a bad thing to do. So I'm of the opinion that perhaps NATO, which was put together to deal with the Soviet Union problem, is not necessary any longer, and we're supposed to be taking care of if we're going to do all the fighting, if we're going to spend all the money, then you need to sit down and just shut up.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is simple. As an Israeli, as someone who served in the Israeli Defense Forces, I look at the Israeli soldiers that last year fought in Gaza, and this year they're spending their holiday, their Passover, fighting in Lebanon.
Yes.
You might encounter a funny response if you go and ask them about NATO or the UN. They'll start laughing at you and say, yeah, we're still waiting for them to actually do what it is that they're supposed to be doing, right? There's a joke actually in the IDF every time we had to encounter the UN people. I mean, and look, it is a joke, so take it as a joke, but we used to call them like the abbreviation for UN is unnecessary.
Yeah,
right?
well, true.
Because they were mostly just in our way. They put themselves at risk, and they're just in a way, instead of helping, instead of actually bridging, and instead of understanding the nature of the region, you have just a bunch of people that have no idea what they're doing there, and they're just creating more tension and conflict. It's there's this idea. Well, first of all, I want to say a few things. One, Western people, even some people in Israel and the US, they tend to let their specific political view cloud their judgment into international politics and looking at the bigger picture. They tend to let one or two or three specific policies that they dislike or disagree with completely stain their entire judgment of what's going on. And I encourage people to look beyond that, to look past that. You don't always have to agree with everything. I think, in fact, that's quite beautiful about our country, about that we don't have to agree on everything, right? But as long as we do it civically, and we do it civilly, right? Civilly or civically? How do you say that? Civilly, right? So push beyond those predeceived notions. Like, if you think something, question yourself almost, right? Like, play devil's advocate. Question yourself. Do role play with yourself and say, if I were on the other side, what would I think? And do it genuinely. So that's one thing. Don't let your specific political views cloud your judgment about a bigger picture. The second thing is, why is it? And this is something that the US is experiencing now, I think, more than ever, because it's joined Israel in this never-ending criticism. And Israel is always expected to do the impossible, right? Like, we're talking about this double standard, right? Why is Israel always held up to this double standard, right? Everyone has said, no, Israel needs to do this and needs to do that. Why aren't the terrorists held up to the same standard? So you're telling me Israel is held up to this impossible standard that nobody can really attain. And like you said earlier, Israel is only pushing Hezbollah back to where they were supposed to be under the treaty, right?
That's right. They signed a treaty.
They signed a treaty that, by the way, they never actually upheld, right? They never adhered to that treaty.
They never went behind that river.
Never. So now that Israel is doing what it really should have done decades ago, now the world looks at Israel and no. Why aren't you saying that to Hezbollah? Why aren't you saying that to the terrorists? Why aren't you saying that to Hamas? Why aren't you saying that to the Houthis? Why aren't you saying that to Iran?
Because they view it through the Marxist lens of the oppressed and the oppressor. Right. And they have decided your country, Israel, is the oppressor. And Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis and all the other people that are killing people willy-nilly are the oppressed. And what can you expect from the oppressed but for them to strike out at everybody?
It is so funny to me when people say that. I'm like, have you looked at a map of the Middle East? Like, have you seen the size of the state of Israel? And have you seen the 20-something Arab countries that surround it? And you still think that Israel is the oppressor? Israel is the oppressed. It's not the oppressor. It's just very, very strong and able to defend itself. But you know what? I think the time has come that Israel stops saying I have the right to defend myself. I don't say that anymore. I say I have the right to defend myself and win.
Yeah.
And win. I have the right to win and put an end to tyranny and put an end to terrorism and put an end to anyone who threatens the free world. Israel just happens to be that first line of defense because it's right there. And Israel does not have the privilege of overlooking terrorism and saying, they'll be fine. Israel doesn't have that privilege. It's attacked constantly. On all fronts, the physical fronts, the psychological fronts, the intellectual fronts, it is attacked constantly, and it does not have the privilege to sit here and say, we might be too strong. No, we're not strong enough, and we're going to keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger until we say enough is enough. Because we don't just have the right to defend ourselves, we have the right to win and put an end to terrorism. To be honest with you, and I haven't lived in Israel. I mean, I visit every year, and my family still lives there. My friends still live there, of course. So I'm always in contact with Israel. But I haven't personally lived in Israel for over 12 years now. And I am very well aware of the fact that I have changed as a person.
You like it that you can go to bed at night and know you can sleep through the night without being woke up by a siren and told to get in a bomb shelter?
Exactly. I love it. I love it, value it, appreciate it, cherish it. But it also means that there is a certain barrier even between me and my family and friends in Israel, right? Because they're still experiencing it. And I acknowledge that. I know it. Like, it's hard for even me to think in those lenses anymore. So imagine this. If it's hard for me, it's almost impossible to someone that grew up and lived in America their entire life, right? So always put yourself in the other person's shoes as much as you can. Sometimes you can't. I mean, look, Americans, even Jewish Americans who grew up in the US have a hard time understanding what it means to live there. And I'm not talking about, look, a lot of people can say, oh, I visited Israel. Oh, I've been to Judea and Samaria. Okay, but have you lived there? Have you lived under rocket fire? Have you lived under the first intifada, second intifada? Have you been terrified of going to a bus station, Dave, a bus station, just because you know it might explode? So unless, have you lived under the knowledge that you are going to go into the military and it's going to be your turn to defend your country, your homeland? Israel is the greatest story of decolonization there ever was. It's a story of people going back to their home, back to their ancestral homeland. And for the first time in millennia, we can sit here and say, we're not going anywhere. Israel is here. It's here to stay. And it will continue reminding the world what it means when you lose sight of what it takes to have this peace. Peace is a relative term. And a lot of people confuse, and you'll like this, a lot of people confuse peace because they associate the term peace with serenity, harmony, right? Positivity, this balance, right? But peace is nothing like that. Peace is very violent.
Yeah, people want to be able to sit down by a campfire with a guitar and sing Kumbaya.
Right.
You know, and that's what they want to do. And that's not the reality.
That's not the reality.
The situation we're facing. Just some information I had dealing with Israel and Hezbollah. The Pakistanis were told that the ceasefire did not include Lebanon. The Times of Israel reporting the Israeli Air Force Wednesday carried out its largest wave of airstrikes yet against Hezbollah after announcing that it would keep fighting the Iran-backed terror group in Lebanon despite the 2-week ceasefire with Tehran that came into place hours earlier. The Prime Minister of Pakistan, who mediated between U.S. and Iran, declared in his post announcing the 2-week ceasefire overnight, Wednesday into Thursday, that it would cover Lebanon as well. We never agreed to that, neither did Israel. Iran said the same, while Prime Minister Netanyahu's office insisted that Israeli strikes against Hezbollah would continue. Trump weighed in on the issue later yesterday, telling a PBS reporter during a phone interview that Lebanon was not included in the Iranian ceasefire. The IDF had a spokesman who stood forth and said the IDF just carried out the largest strike against Hezbollah terrorists since the beginning of Operation Roaring Line. In just 1 minute, the IDF struck 100 Hezbollah military targets in different locations across Lebanon. Those targets include command centers, missile infrastructure, and assets used by the Radwan Special Forces. This operation was based on weeks of precise intelligence and careful planning. These strikes come as Hezbollah changes the way it is operating. In recent weeks, the IDF intelligence identified Hezbollah moving beyond its usual strangles and building positions in more areas across Lebanon, including civilian neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. This is the biggest upper since the beeper one. Which again goes to prove we will find you. We will know exactly what it is you're planning, what you're going to do. There is nowhere to hide. There is nowhere to run. Either play ball, come to the table, let's talk peace. We will always be here wanting to talk peace. But as long as you're here wanting to talk war, we're going to be better at it than you are.
Yeah, well, you got to be. You're surrounded by your enemies. I mean, it'd be like if the United States to the north was China, to the east was Russia, to the west was Iran, and to the south was, folks over in South Korea.
Yeah.
That any of them could lob bombs across the border at any given time and bomb our major cities.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, Dave, I wanted to tell you, I am flying out to Denver this coming weekend. I am a guest speaker at the Student Supporting Israel conference there in Boulder, Colorado. And it's interesting because Student Supporting Israel is a fantastic organization that is a grassroots organization, student-led. I'm the one who opened it's on campuses, right? I'm the one who opened the Student Supporting Israel chapter at Georgia State University back when I was in college. When they invited me today as a guest speaker to their national conference, and most of their students are actually not Jewish, right? It's not just for Jewish students. It's for every student that is a Zionist and supports the existence of the state of Israel. So I'll have a lot to share when I get back on the show next week. This is going to be a pretty interesting conference to see thousands of students from all across the country. And we actually have a few students from University of Arkansas coming as well with us, which is for the first time ever. So great success.
You should open up your presentation with
call the
max out the volume with bombs and air raids. That's just to they don't know what's coming. You said you don't know how surprises are, but that would make an impact.
That's actually pretty cool. that's actually pretty cool.
Make a huge impact.
Yeah,
this is what it's like living in Israel.
Yeah, and it just goes to show, by the way, like the more partnerships, the more collaborations. So because I'm the head of the federation here, I was able to say, hey, do we have any students from U of A that would be willing to go? And we found 2 incredible students that are going, and the federation is paying their way there. So I'm really excited to take them with us. But it just goes to show that our work here is impactful and that we are making progress, significant progress. And we're going to continue to do that because that is exactly what we are about. Together is the only way forward, Dave.
All right. We are out of time with the man today. He'll be back with us next Thursday. Enrico Ravenna, my special guest, Executive Director for the Jewish Federation of Arkansas. Let's take a break, and then I don't know what's coming up in the next hour other than Matt Smith is going to be here on the show, on the Dave Elswick Show, 101.1, The Answer.
News breaks fast. We break it down faster. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Katie.
Abbott VIP Cinema, the Cersei VIP Cinema, the Oaks in up in Batesville, and of course we all know about Little Rock as far as the Riverdale is concerned, and then 2 theaters down in the Hot Springs area.
Riverdale 10, Riverdale10.com, brother. Riverdale 10, hanging out, getting it done. I got to say this, man. I like your backdrop. That's cool. That's new. You guys haven't had that. I like that. That looks good.
Oh, it's the 101 behind me.
Yeah, looks good, man.
Well, we want people to keep in mind, what station they're listening to.
Got to be classy, man. Keep it classy. Keep it classy, Little Rock.
How it's going.
Tell
All
you
right.
what. Yes.
Let's start off this week's program a little differently than last week.
All right.
By saying, okay, so what's opening this weekend at the theaters?
Well, the new movie out is called You, Me, and Tuscany. And it's, love story. Lady goes to Tuscany, Italy, and she's trying the food and wine and falls in love. Kind of like, when Julia Roberts had that Eat, Pray, Love movie that was based on the novel. It's kind of like that. That's a new movie this week, and it's some counter programming. It's a movie out there for the ladies. Give them something to go watch because, the monster, strong, huge movie has been the new Super Mario's Galaxy movie.
I tell you what, I drove by the VIP Cinema in Cabot over the weekend, and it was packed.
Yeah, my son, after we saw it on last Thursday, the day it came out, but my son drove by over in North Little Rock, and he said that the theaters were all packed out.
Well, it's nice, but you had a very unusual thing on Saturday last weekend. One, you had a hot movie with some, IP, intellectual property, known by everyone that breathes.
Mm-hmm.
It was a holiday weekend. It was a Saturday, and it rained, and it rained out a lot of events. And so you had a lot of people that were planning to do Easter things on Saturday. I can't hunt eggs or do whatever. My church has canceled this or that. We got to find something to do. And so they popped into a movie theater. It made Saturday a very busy day, and then Sunday was exceptionally slow just because they all went on Saturday. Saturday was an unusually busy day at cinemas. It's that's good. We want to be busy, also bad. You get a lot of people in on a day like that, and they're upset because the lines are long, the theater's crowded. Somebody dropped a piece of popcorn.
See, my son was like, he said he wanted my grandson to experience a packed movie theater, because when we go, there's hardly anybody in there. But so he was kind of bummed out. He wanted that.
Yes, there are moviegoers, and going to cinemas is what they do. That's their pastime. You may fall into that category. And so those people are prepared.
Did you notice he looked at me as he said that?
Yes.
You're not prepared, or the moviegoers?
No, I'm
you're a moviegoer.
I was going to say, he's
and
prepared.
So if you're a moviegoer, you know what's going on. You're prepared. You go to the movies. That's your pastime. You know when it's going to be busy. You buy your tickets in advance.
Yes, I do.
You know what's going on. You know the drill.
Yep.
And some people are like that, and they understand that if they want to watch the hot new movie at 7:00 on Friday or Saturday night, they need to buy those tickets right now as they're hearing my voice. Okay. That they know that. But then you've got people that attend the movies occasionally. And when they are occasional moviegoers, they typically go on a holiday or on the weekend, and they typically go to one of the top 5 or perhaps top 10 films of the year. And so they went to a movie Christmas Day, right? They haven't been back until this past Saturday. And so in their mind, every time they go, it's crowded, it's full of people. There's a line out the door because they went on a rainy Saturday before Easter to see probably, if not the biggest opening movie of the year, certainly one of the top 3 to 5. Yeah. And the last time they walked into a movie theater, it was Christmas Day and everything's closed but the movie theater.
Right.
And so they moan and complain about how long the lines are. There's popcorn in the floor. Oh my God, where's the receipt and the credit card thing? Because they never go. Right. And so they have this concept in their head that, there's a billion people at the cinemas all the time. Right. And that's just not the case. So from the exhibitor point of view, if we're going to make up a number, let's say 1,000 people are coming today. Let's just be incredibly optimistic, right? 1,000 people are coming today. Well, we want to show this movie 5 times. And the best thing would be 200 people per show.
Right.
And that makes life good for everybody. Makes life good for the customer, makes life good for the staff. It's just a much enhanced, better experience for people. But it doesn't work that way, right? It's 7:00 Friday night or 7:00 Saturday night. And all of these irritants come with that. And if you're not a moviegoer, and obviously the two of you are, Val goes to the movies, you go to the movies, you know the drill. But it's mind blowing, like the phone calls and emails that you get. People will call or email and they'll be like, so how I get one of them recliners, man? Like what? I'm sorry?
At home?
How I get one of them recliners? I'm like, well, every chair in the building is a power recliner with a table. Every chair. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, then. Well, what I got to do? Just go to the website, click the showtime.
Just buy a ticket.
Buy a ticket. You got a recliner, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and like it's mind blowing when you take something like Riverdale, and every chair in that building has been a recliner since 2015.
Yeah.
11 years.
We saw what we saw. We saw the Friday the 13th down there when they first got him.
People,
the one with Rob Zombie made.
People calling and asking, what? It just like, oh, y'all got beer? Well, how'd you hear about the beer? Well, I was on the website. I saw this thing say y'all got beer. Y'all got beer? And I'm
Times have changed.
Well,
but I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why would we have this big old thing across here that says now serving beer and wine? If we didn't have it, man,
they just can't wrap their head around that. At the movie theater, they don't have to bring their flask.
Dude, I'm like, we've had beer for 25 years. You're kidding me? I'm like, no, man, we've been serving beer since 2000, bro.
Their wife probably walked them by it though, so they didn't get messed up in the movie theater.
But then you got these people that are just a joy. They go to the movies, right? They know what's going on. They've got their advance ticket. They've got their refillable popcorn bucket. They show up early. They've got a couple of chairs in that auditorium that they like to sit in, right? And so that is just your good time, wonderful customer that you want to see. I mean, we got some people that when they walk in the door, the staff knows their order. The staff knows what they're going to drink and what they want to eat, And so those people make it incredibly fun. So anyway, Super Mario Galaxy PG, go see it. Off the Hook, opened to 162 million. Great, wonderful film. Take the kids. It's awesome. It's really good. You can catch that at all 6 locations: Batesville, Searcy, Cabot, both locations in Hot Springs, and of course the Riverdale 10 in Little Rock. Go see that. You, Me, and Tuscany is new. You can also catch that this weekend. It's PG-13 love story, great for the ladies, romance like a rom-com. That's new. That's out this week, all 6 locations. We've got a scary movie called Faces of Death from IFC Films. That's
Faces of Death. Is that like the old one?
This is a brand new movie from IFC Films. Starts today. You can catch that at Riverdale 10, Riverdale10.com, or Central City 10, CentralCity10.com. Catch that. It's from IFC at both of the 10 screens. We've also got a movie from Greenwich Entertainment called Fantasy Life, and that is new at the 2 10 screens this weekend as well. But you can catch Mario and Tuscany at all locations. So we're just, we're about to get into a good movie going season. We've got some good stuff coming up. A lot of people are anticipating the Michael film that's coming up from Lionsgate about Michael Jackson.
That should be good.
It starts April 24. A lot of people are really anticipating that. That looks like a good film. And those biopics have gotten some traction as of late, just like Bohemian Rhapsody and all that.
The Bob Dylan movie and things of that nature.
Bob Dylan movie was great, wasn't it? That was just so good. So that's coming up on the 24th. People looking forward to that. And then as we get into May, Angel Studios is putting out that animated film, Animal Farm, PG. That's May 1st.
That's a great book, and it's been done in animation before. I don't You know,
I've heard some mixed reviews about it, though. I've heard some folks say that it's not like the book, that it's more.
If you like Angel Studios, you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Well,
You
that's
just
what
know.
people were saying, that
You
it's
know?
not
You
like
just know.
their typical. I don't know. That's just what I heard reviews, people saying that it leans a little bit more away.
Also that day, Devil Wears Prada 2 comes out May 1st.
I'm excited about
That'll
that
be
one.
popular. That's
I'm
coming
gonna
up.
take my Prada with me when I go.
Yeah, and the next weekend, May the 8th, you've got Mortal Kombat 2.
There you go.
Coming up from Warner Brothers.
Dun, dun, dun,
Oh, my
dun,
nerd
dun,
kid will be
dun,
there.
I can get into that theme song.
Way popular.
Yeah.
Way popular. Yes, people love that. And also, Billie Eilish has a concert movie. You know,
Oh, that's gonna be
coming up May
interesting.
the 8th, and it's in 3D. And I think the fans will turn out for that. That is kind of become a thing to release these concert films. And, you know, Taylor Swift kind of set the mold for that. And now you see some other artists getting behind it. Beyonce's done it. Megadeth did it recently. And, you know, Billie Eilish is doing this. That is also May the 8th. And they're really, really hyping the 3D version of that.
Well, if
So-
you can't be there, it pays to go and feel like you're there at least.
Fans get together and come in groups to that, and they like to sing the songs. And
Yeah.
the concert film thing has really taken off the past, say, 3 years. So that's coming up. You know, got a cool movie called The Breadwinner from the stand-up comic that's coming May the 29th. That was originally supposed to come out in March. They moved it to May the 29th. I think they feel real big about it. He's been out on tour. So I think they feel like that's going to push it as well.
Yeah, that's good.
That's coming up, Breadwinner. Universal's got a picture called Pressure coming up May the 29th. That should do well. But, you know, I'm with you. I'm looking for Odyssey. You know,
I'm looking for Odyssey. I'm looking forward
just
to
Christopher Nolan.
Dune
just-
3. I mean,
just-
I'm looking at the big
Yes.
the big one
From Universal. Yes.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Universal also has Minions and Monsters for 4th of July weekend.
That'd
That
be
comes out
fun.
July 1. That's coming up as well. So that will be big. But now Odyssey is I'm really excited about that for the
That's
summer.
going to blow the doors off.
Yes, and then of course Disclosure Day from Steven Spielberg. That is also from Universal this summer. So that's 3 really big movies from them. Really big.
Supergirl is coming.
Warner Brothers.
They were pushing that during the Final Four.
If the star would just shut up and just let the politics go, okay? I just want.
Is she another one like Snow White?
Close your pie hole. Just close it up. I don't know. I know there was some trash talk when Scream 7 came out. It didn't affect the box office, so I hope they quiet down. You know, just entertain me. I don't want to hear your politics. Just shut up.
Yeah, I'm not coming to the movie theater to hear your political views.
You know,
Sorry.
I mean, you know, I liked Michael Jordan's take on it. You know, conservatives buy shoes too.
Yeah.
So you know, that's coming. That looks good. But you know, obviously, as you look at May and you just think about what's going to do business, you know, the one that's going to blow the doors off is May the 22nd, The Mandalorian and Grogu.
I can't wait for that one.
That's going to be big. That's going to be just a huge movie. That's going to be the biggest movie in May. GOAT was the biggest movie for February. The animated film, which we're still playing. It's a great film. It's about a little goat who plays basketball against these bigger animals like rhinoceroses and rams and stuff. You know, he beats them. Giraffes, he beats them. He's a goat. He's the greatest of all time. It's really cool. Kids love that little animated movie. Still playing Hoppers, PG, from Pixar. Great animated movie. Kids are enjoying that quite a bit. GOAT was the biggest February movie. Hoppers did very, very well in March. The biggest March movie, though, was Project Hail Mary. Have you seen that one?
I'm not, and that's kind of strange for me not to have seen a Ryan Gosling movie.
It's good. Yeah.
I like Ryan Gosling. I think he's a good actor.
Biggest opening ever for MGM Studios. They're really behind it. That's March's biggest movie. And obviously, April's biggest film is, of course, Super Mario Galaxy.
Yeah.
Right? But the biggest movie in May will be Mandalorian and Grogu. That's going to be the big one. So that's what's out there. That's what's coming up. We're about to get into a busy season, the summer season. First quarter of the year, typically what's driving attendance and driving the box office the first quarter of the year is your holiday holdover movies. You got some Christmas releases that were strong and they're still sticking around into January. Typically you'll get some good films at Valentine's Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the releases in January, February, March in the past, they've kind of been a dumping ground for films, just kind of throwing some stuff out there. So you don't expect the box office to be strong. This year, though, first quarter was much better than last year, just because you had movies like Wuthering Heights for Valentine's Day.
Right.
GOAT came out at Valentine's Day. Project Hail Mary in March. That's kind of driven the box
Scream
office.
7 came out. A bunch of different
There was a
movies
lot of horror movies in the first quarter this year.
It's been
but
crazy.
But nothing could really touch Scream 7. It was just there. The critical response was not good for that film. Critics kind of beat it up, really. And I don't think that was justified. I mean, what you're getting with Ghostface, right? It was the biggest opening of the franchise, right? And it's had some legs. It's legged on out there. It has been very, very popular. Scream 7 is good, right? If you like a scary movie, it's good. But like if you're into the Scream franchise,
they moved the story along.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah.
You saw it. I thought it was done very well. They brought back some of the original people and worked that in. And
as long as Sydney's back, I'm happy.
What's not to like about that? If you're a fan, Scream did business. And then, like I said, Project Hail Mary, biggest movie for March. But as we get into May, right, we're going to see some big titles. We'll get into the summer with those big titles. And April, they're putting Michael away from, because Michael's the 24th. They're putting it away from Super Mario Brothers, which I think is good, because Super Mario is just driving the box office now. It's just driving it. So people are liking that. They're talking about that Michael Jackson movie. So yes, I'm with you. I hope it falls into like the Bob Dylan movie, like Bohemian Rhapsody. They do justice for the story. I really hope that's there. I mean, Michael Jackson, such an icon. It just, if you get back to just, leave the controversy alone. He obviously was the biggest pop star.
Yeah.
Biggest, no doubt about it. So
strange cat, but that's just the way it was.
When things are like that, I mean, I don't know how it doesn't drive someone crazy. I mean, look what they've done to Britney Spears,
Yeah, look what his daddy. I grew up in the same place that Michael Jackson grew up.
You're Indiana.
I was over in Hessville, which is right next door.
Oh, is it?
To Gary, Indiana.
Okay.
So bottom line was, the Jackson 5 played at my senior prom. That should tell you something about where I'm from. But, Michael was incredibly talented. He really, really was.
Well, he was the youngest. So, he absorbed all of that from the older brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you got to think.
And then Janet was just as popular as Michael was.
Well, she got the TV show, was a little kid. She was on Good Times, I think the little brother, Michael, was just driven to outshine the older brothers. And I think that was the motivation. He watched them and copied them, and he knew this is going to make my parents happy. This is going to make people happy.
Well, he wanted to keep his dad happy or get the hell beat out of him.
He was a killer at 5, 6, 7 years old. Just a killer, just a dancing phenom, just a singing phenom. I mean, just, as a second grader, he was just like a monster entertainer, man. He was just unreal. And so, when you come off that, I mean, you look back at him as such a small kid and just, ABCs, that's a song, and
Rockin' Robin, all
the
the rest
popularity of that, man. And then like that just projects on through his entire life. And then, you release something like Thriller, I mean, then you're like, your next follow-up album was not that big. Well, how can it be, man? Really?
That's like saying, well,
bro?
The follow-up to Dark Side of the Moon wasn't as big. Come on.
Right. It's like, the 11th through 20th commandment was not as good as the first 10. Huh? What?
I'm with you. All right, we got to get a break in. Let's do that. We're going to break, and then we'll be back with more on the Dave Elswick Show.
who adopted teens to share their journey.
We just kind of knew from the beginning that we were family.
They showcased a sense of love that I never had before. I mean, he's not only my parent, like he's like my best friend.
At the end of the day, it's all been worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about our lives.
Learn about adopting a teen in foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council. We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
When I met both of them, it was like my missing pieces were found. Like it was just like an instant, these are my kids. If you're considering adopting a teen, just do it. Kids need families. I don't care the age. Everybody deserves a family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Did you hear Congressman Bruce Westerman on the Dave Elswick Show?
Every Republican has voted multiple times to fund DHS. Democrats are not voting to fund DHS, but somehow they're trying to make it Trump's problem and House and Senate Republicans' problem because every proposal they put out there, they want to leave ICE and Customs and Border Patrol not funded. So how can they legitimately blame Republicans for not funding DHS, even though we're all voting to fund it? So it looks like we're going to use a reconciliation process. I'm not real crazy about that, using reconciliation to fund government agencies, but we're to a point where that may be the only option available if they want to consider funding those two agencies. So you know what the biggest issue was in the last election? Was a wide open border. So how can they run on that and people legitimately give them credit for it?
Don't miss Congressman Westerman, Wednesday mornings at 7:30 on the Dave Elswick Show, 101.1. The Answer.
President Trump has triggered a $200 billion tech disruption, and Wall Street is asleep at the switch. This $200 billion investment in chip technology could make today's artificial intelligence chips obsolete. Technology that will make today's AI data centers a thing of the past, like IBM's old mainframes. While most investors are focused on old-fashioned AI, there are three companies quietly building a trillion-dollar triangle that could transform every tech sector on Earth. These three companies are gearing up to develop and manufacture supercomputers the size of a dinner plate. Institutions like Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street are pouring more than $200 billion into this AI revolution. Investment guru George Gilder has been predicting tech revolutions for more than 40 years, including the iPhone, Netflix, and Amazon. Now he's got his finger on three companies whose technology will change tech forever. Log on to TrillionDollarTriangle.com to find out which three companies are working on what could be the biggest tech disruption since the internet. TrillionDollarTriangle.com. That's TrillionDollarTriangle.com.
The Dave Elswick Show continues now. 101.1. The Answer.
All right, back with you. We've got news coming up here in 4 seconds. And then Matt will join me back here in the studio with the last half of his interview.
News. I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. Angry over Israel's attacks on Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iran is again interfering with shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. contends Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire deal with Iran. Iran and Lebanon beg to differ. President Trump warns Iran to honor terms of the truce or face the wrath of the U.S. military yet again. The UK says British and Norwegian militaries led an operation to deter Russian submarines suspected of malign activity in the North Atlantic. The British Defense Secretary says planes and hundreds of personnel monitored a Russian attack sub as well as 2 spy submarines. On Wall Street this morning, stocks have now turned mixed. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 66 points, while the NASDAQ is 4 points higher. The S&P is up a fraction. More details, srnnews.com.
Hey, I'm Kirk Cameron. Is health insurance eating up your budget for 2026? If you're looking for ways to better steward your finances, consider this: Christian Healthcare Ministries. It's a health insurance alternative at half the cost. Join CHM today by visiting chministries.org/wellness. While insurance companies tell you when to join, what to pay, and where to go, CHM is different. As a ministry, CHM allows you to share the burden of medical bills with other Christians. You can enroll, switch programs, or leave at any time. Christian Healthcare Ministries. It's a world of difference. CHM has 4 flexible programs. You can pick any certified doctor, surgeon, or hospital that you want for eligible care. So make the switch. Take your paycheck back from health insurance this year. Join CHM today by visiting chministries.org/wellness. That's chministries.org/wellness.
We bring you the biggest news stories of the day. Not to tell you what to think, but to allow you to have the most information so you can make up your mind. 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
RedState.com captures the pulse of grassroots conservatism. Red State staff of contributors are on top of breaking news with stories and analysis that challenge the established agenda. RedState.com educates, motivates, and activates passionate conservatives across America, arming them with the facts that put them ahead of the political curve. No wonder RedState.com is a must-read for elected officials and for citizens who want to make their vote count. RedState.com is the place where influence meets action. Log on to RedState.com today.
You served behind the desk.
You served in combat.
You did 4 years and got out.
You were drafted.
You gave 20 years.
You gave exactly what your country needed.
And so did you.
When you raised your hand and swore an oath to your country, when you put your name on the dotted line, you became part of only 1% of Americans who did the same. You are a veteran.
You are a veteran.
You are a veteran. Because no matter when, where, or how you served, you made a sacrifice for your country, and you deserve support.
If you're struggling with life after service, don't wait. Reach out.
Reach out to a loved one, to a fellow veteran, to VA.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
In his new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, Dinesh D'Souza brings the new Middle East into focus with a message of perseverance, faith, and a shared global destiny.
Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be somehow tied to this place?
At long last, we have peace in the Middle East.
Israel and Christians are coming together in a way they have never been before since the book of Acts.
But is this the end of Hamas and radical Islam? What does the Bible say?
We have to become fighters in the spirit for God. We don't accept what the enemy wants to do with our culture. We don't accept what he wants to do with the nation. If we keep fighting, we win.
Powerful, prophetic, a must-see movie based on Jonathan Cahn's international bestseller. The Dragon's Prophecy combines history and scripture with faith, justice, and renewal. The Dragon's Prophecy, a new film by Dinesh D'Souza. Now available on Amazon, YouTube, and iTunes. You can watch the show right now. The Dave Elswick Show is streaming live on Facebook. This is 101.1, The Answer.
Back with you, Dave Elswick Show. We're into the final half hour of the show for a Thursday. Tomorrow, just so you'll know, you won't want to miss the show because State Senator Johnson will be on. Mark Johnson will be on with us. He'll be talking about the fiscal session and walking us through what exactly the legislature is trying to do during the fiscal session. He might have more information about a special session that's supposed to be coming up as well. So he'll be on with us from 8 o'clock until 10 o'clock tomorrow. So 2 hours with State Senator Mark Johnson. I don't know if we'll do a final one, a couple hours with him, the final Friday after that to cover everything that's going on. But, the legislature now is getting it together. I want to talk to him about, how disappointed or how he feels about the Secretary of State election and what he's looking at as far as that. I mean, evidently what went on in Saline County, from what we're hearing from Clint Lancaster and other people, is just a mess. I mean, just a real mess. So, it's something that needs to be looked at, and we need to have an autopsy live and on the air, kind of the way they used to do the alien autopsies.
What happened in Saline County?
The election for the Secretary of State, there's all kinds of questions about how well that election was carried out.
Like
following rules and things of that nature.
I guess the primary?
Yeah. Well, it was the
runoff.
The runoff
the
that
runoff.
happened. And now, we're hearing from Clint Lancaster that they might, the courts could throw out the runoff election, and if they do, they don't go back and have another election, and that would mean that Brian Norris could be projected as being the winner of the election, and that's just going to make a big mess. I mean, a huge. If that happens, there's no telling how this reflect on the Republican Party. To be honest with you, because they're the ones running it. Everybody's got to understand that they're the ones that are running it. All right, let's get back and talk with Matt for a few more moments. When is the Odyssey coming? Is that in July?
That is June 12th.
Okay, beginning of June.
Yeah, that'll be good.
When it used to be that's when all the big tentpole movies opened, was in the first and second week of June.
Well, what you have is you have a big push for Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
And then that following weekend is generally a slower weekend at the box office because people are very predictable in what they do. So you have a big push of quality films, big tentpole type pictures for Memorial Day weekend, which they're going to throw them out on Friday May 22nd this year. Then you got a lull in the box office that following weekend on the 29th. Much like there's a huge push to release movies for Thanksgiving and that weekend that follows Thanksgiving. And then generally that first weekend in December, there's a serious lull at the box office. Everybody that wants to go to a movie goes the Wednesday before Thanksgiving through the Sunday after Thanksgiving. Then the next couple weekends are slow at the box office. Same thing happens in the summer. You get a lot of people going to the movies that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday of Memorial Day weekend. Then the following weekend is much, much slower. And so you see Mandalorian and Grogu hitting theaters May 22nd. They want to capitalize on the Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
Then the 29th, there's some lesser films. And then June 4th, they roll out some hits again because they've got a couple of weeks after Memorial Day and after Grogu, right? So that's happening June 4th this year. The calendar does a lot, as far as just the release schedule and then the perceived way that Hollywood's going to do things. Past few years, I haven't liked the fact that we haven't had a big Martin Luther King weekend movie. Really didn't have one this year, but we used to have something good every year on Martin Luther King weekend, right? So you would have like a movie like 42 about Jackie Robinson, right? And so you'd have a really good, solid, grown-up adult motion picture going for MLK, and then you'd have some goofball action thing that had an Ice Cube in it, like Ride Along or something, right? So that you would have something that would appeal to a wide-ranging audience for that holiday weekend. Didn't have that this year, right? And then in years past, we also had a situation of you got a good movie for women for Mother's Day weekend, okay?
Yeah,
and it would be
Wuthering Heights.
It would be no, that was Valentine's Day. Mother's Day weekend. We had Valentine's Day movies this year. We had Wuthering Heights. We had Goat. We had like 4 movies released for Valentine's Day. That's the way it's supposed to be. But in the past, you always had a movie that came out for the ladies for Mother's Day, and it would be a movie that women would go to together or take their daughters to, right?
Fried green tomatoes.
Yeah. And that was a thing that just was an annual occurrence at the box office. And for the past few years, we haven't had that. Luckily, this year, we've got Devil Wears Prada 2, which is going to appeal to the ladies, and they can get out and watch that. And so I like when Hollywood gets it together and looks to the strengths of the calendar, right? That's important. There's just a lot. There's a lot that goes into making a motion picture work. And obviously, if it was easy, every movie would be a hit, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
But you know, you've got to have, and as you and I have talked about for a billion years, people like what they know. They don't necessarily know what they like.
That right.
And so people will go to a movie because they know that star or they know the intellectual property. They're much more likely to watch a sequel than to try something new.
Correct.
That's the way it goes. That's why you continue to get sequels. That's why, you know, Top Gun 3 is going to be huge. And if you made another fighter pilot movie, maybe not so much, right? So you've got to get the intellectual property right, but it's also very, very important to marketing, you know, and the date that the picture goes. And the intellectual property knowledge of that, the marketing and the date impact box office to a great deal. And if you've got a really good movie, but it's not marketed correctly, or you've got a really good movie that falls on the wrong date, you know, that could just kill a great motion picture.
End up losing millions of dollars.
That could kill a great motion picture. So they've got to know the intellectual property and have a concept of it in their head, and then it's got to be marketed right, you know, and it's got to have a good weekend. There's a movie out there called The Drama. You can watch The Drama at Riverdale 10, riverdale10.com. Also at Central City 10, centralcity10.com, centralcity10.com. And it's got Zenda, you know, from the Avatar movies and all this other stuff. It's got Robert Pattinson in it, you know, from all the Twilight movies or whatever. Great movie, you know, good movie, The Drama, good film, right? But they put it into theaters the same day as Super Mario.
Yeah, that,
you know,
that's not really the people who are going to see Super Mario. You could counter program and try to pick up people that couldn't get tickets to Mario.
That's just a mistake.
Yeah, that's a girls' movie.
There's a cool movie out there called Great Awakening. You know, it's and I'm sure you've heard of it. You know, it's about the United States, got some faith-based elements to it. It's just a really wonderful film. Great Awakening, right? It's playing at Riverdale 10, riverdale10.com, Central City 10, centralcity10.com, right? Came out the same day as Super Mario Brothers. Two great films, right? That get dumped into theaters the same day as one of the top 3 opening box office films of the entire year.
Right.
That's a mistake. Now you're sitting back there thinking, well, you know, it's Easter weekend, man, and people are going to be going to the movies. And the people that want to watch The Drama and A Great Awakening do not want to fight the crowd that's going to Super Mario.
That's correct.
Right. And so it's 2 good movies on the wrong weekend. Okay. And then you got to ask yourself, why is nobody there? Well, I mean, you know, if you drive by the theater, it looks like everybody in town's there. Maybe you don't want to go if you're looking for a drama or a film like The Great Awakening. So it's the quality of the film, but you've got to have a good movie, but it's got to have something the customer can relate to. It's got to have a good date, and it's got to be marketed correctly. And if you're looking at the calendar and Super Mario was on that day, you need to get the hell away from it. Okay? Because it's just going to vacuum up 99% of movie going.
Yeah, it sucks up all the oxygen.
Everybody's going. Yeah. Everybody's going. And then anybody that's wanting to watch, as you said, some counter programming, even that counter programming is a quality motion picture. They don't want to fight the ocean of individuals going to Super Mario. You would think the Hollywood Brain Trust would figure that out. This weekend, today, would be a great weekend to open The Drama.
Yeah.
You know, or to open A Great Awakening. They're both good films.
Yeah.
But you're going to go the same Friday as Mario, and then you're going to scratch your head like, why is nobody here?
Right.
Well, it's not the movie. It's the date.
Yeah,
right?
It's not rocket science.
You would think, though, it would be rocket science on Artemis on the backside of the moon, including brain surgery as we head to Mars. How they dropped the ball on it, right?
Yeah, I understand.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know, what needs to open the weekend of Mandalorian and Grogu? Simply Mandalorian and Grogu.
That's right. Nothing else should take
Nothing. And you sit there and you're like, well, you're going to crowd your movie in because it's Memorial Day weekend. You're thinking, man, it's Memorial Day weekend. People going to go, they got Monday off work and all this. Not if a massive Star Wars movie is opening. And so I see some of that stupidity sometimes. You'll see this movie that's clearly going to do 90%, maybe more of all ticket sales that weekend. And it's going to take up 2, 3, 4 screens everywhere it plays, right? And so that movie's locked in. And they'll date those movies a couple years in advance. I mean, it's coming. You knew 2 years ago, Mandalorian and Grogu are going May 22nd, 2026,
right.
Okay? Then you want to throw in 3 more movies. And then I look at the release calendar, and there's some Fridays that only have 1 movie. So why you got 1 movie this Friday and 5 this other Friday? Because Monday's a holiday, makes no sense. Not enough people to go around for that. See, there's just not, And I think that hurts. Great Awakening is an awesome film. It really is, And nobody went to see it because Mario, So I look at the calendar for the summer, and there's some really good stuff that's lined up that should work. And this lesson is taught over and over again, right? But a lot of Hollywood just doesn't learn the lesson, unfortunately, right? There's a lot of competition out there for the moviegoer and for who's going to buy that ticket and sit in that seat, man.
All right.
We're
going to take a break, and then we'll come back and finish up our time with Matt Smith here on the Dave Elswick Show on The Answer.
When your money gets tight, you have to make some tough choices. Do you pay the mortgage, pay the credit cards, or pay the IRS? For lots of people, taxes get pushed aside until the letters start, then the threats, then the action, bank levies, wage garnishments. You can stop worrying. The IRS is offering new opportunities to help you resolve your back taxes, and Guardian Tax knows how it all works. If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, you may qualify to reduce your total tax debt by a very significant amount, even if you're years behind on filing. But timing matters, and so does who you trust. Guardian Tax knows the system and how to work it in your favor. They step in, deal with the IRS directly, and fight to protect what you've worked so hard to earn. In today's economy, you can't afford to lose more. Call Guardian Tax now for a free confidential consultation. 800-404-6851. 800-404-6851. Don't wait for the IRS to make the next move. Make yours first. Call now. 800-404-6851.
Our Senators John Bozeman and Tom Cotton and Representative Bruce Westerman are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Did you hear Congressman French Hill on the Dave Elswick Show?
50 years, we have tried sanctions. We've tried selective elimination of their most outrageous military leaders that have fingerprints on attacking and killing Americans, like Soleimani. We've done that under Bush, Obama, Trump 1, even modestly under Biden. We've attempted sanctions, and none of that has compelled them to stop their nuclear program. Again, as I say, President Trump is like, I want to clean out the barn of these persistent challenges that America faces to our national security around the world. And our national security is our trade relations, bilateral economic relations, the safety of our Americans that are traveling as tourists, keep our military deployed abroad. And I want to get our allies to do more, whether it's in Europe or in the Gulf states, to defend the region in the Persian Gulf and be the first line of defense. So he's making big strategic decisions.
Congressman Hill, Wednesday mornings at 7 on the Dave Elswick Show, 101.1. The Answer.
I'm Ferenc Toth, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. I use common sense as an entrepreneur, financial literacy educator, and speaker to understand how current events affect our money, our economy, and our freedom. Grow your money safely, reduce taxes, increase returns, and create positive arbitrage with your personal bank. Tune in to the Your Personal Bank Show, Saturdays at 1 p.m. or contact Ferenc at yourpersonalbank.com. The Your Personal Bank Show, Saturdays at 1 p.m. on 101.1 The Answer.
Dave Elswick is the conservative voice of Arkansas, and he's back. 101.1 The Answer.
All right, back with you here on the Dave Elswick Show. Don't forget tomorrow at about 3 o'clock our time, the Orion space capsule will splash down in the Pacific Ocean, down towards San Diego, and be recovered. And the Artemis crew will be back on Earth again next flight next year. That's to, try to hook up with the lunar landing material and all the rest that they got planned. Then in 2028, we go back to the moon and we start building a base on the moon to proceed to go to Mars. So a lot of work to go on with NASA and SpaceX and all the rest of them in space. I mean, things going on.
I mean, the ambition's back, and the striving is back, and the goal setting, and we're getting out there. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad to see that.
Well, I'm good. I'm good for it. It gives kids, young people, teenagers, and folks some things to shoot for if they want to pursue the space program and things of that nature. Now's the time that they're hiring, just to let you know. And they're not hiring if you're just a influencer.
No, it's that
they're looking for physicists and things of that nature.
Yeah, they're not looking for a human resources degree from North, South, West, East State University.
That's exactly right.
Not hunting that.
Yeah. They're expecting you to do the job. Okay, so what do you think? Mario Brothers is going to be huge at the box office already, showing that. What's going to be, do you believe, the top movie for this year? Mandalorian could be
Mandalorian's going to be big, but you got Dune coming up, which will be big.
Yeah.
And you also have,
Odyssey
and the new Avengers coming up. Odyssey will be a great film. It's just not going to be a top 5. It's not as much a popcorn movie as it is an adult or intelligent movie. Chris Nolan makes tremendous award-winning films, and they do well at the box office, but they're not top 5 grossers for the year.
I'm just wondering how long the Odyssey is going to be.
I mean,
I haven't heard anybody talking about it yet.
Yeah.
But somebody will say, people don't want to sit in a theater for 3 hours.
I think there's a spot, you need a decent running time that's good for your customer for the theatrical release. But, I also like when something's followed later with the director's cut. I like for that to happen later, and you can catch that, on streaming or whatever. I think that's a good move. I just, if you're going to have a top grosser, you're going to have a top 5 box office smash for the year, you need a 4-quadrant movie. It's got to hit young, old, it's got to hit male, female. It's just got to. And a movie like Odyssey is going to be so awesome, right? But it's not going to be a full quad movie. Youngsters aren't watching Odyssey, right?
No. So they probably don't even know what it is.
Right. So you need the 4-quadrant picture to do the big box office ticket sales, okay? But that has nothing to do with the quality of the film. Now, I'm with you. I really want to see Odyssey.
Yep.
I'm not going to watch Minions and Monsters. But Minions and Monsters will outgross Odyssey.
But it's got Minions in it. I might have to go see it.
I'm just saying, right? So, it's like many things. A lot of times the sales don't reflect the quality,
Yeah, well, the Minions they remind me of the Three Stooges. You either love them or you hate them.
Yes. I mean, it's going to be great. It's going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining. But, it's just going to stomp down the sales of Odyssey.
Yeah.
Odyssey is just going to be it's just Christopher Nolan. What's not to love? Come on, man. Dunkirk? Come on.
Who's the star carrying the Odyssey?
Oh.
Who's playing Ulysses?
Man, they got 3 or 4 people in there. I don't know. I'm drawing a need more coffee. I was out all night last night in Memphis blank. I'm sorry, man. I'm suffering from, I watched the sun come up after not sleeping, brain fog.
Uh-oh.
So I can't even.
That's not good.
Yeah, I drove back, just watching the sunrise as I was crossing the river. So drug in, and
I saw your post
went
of
to the gym and
Doobie Brothers doing black water as you were going across the Ohio River.
Yeah, just drug in, went to the gym, and then went and took a shower and came over here. So I'm walking 0 sleep.
Okay,
it's more at Memphis in April.
Taking a quick look here, seeing if I can IMDb.
Sorry, man. That's why I'm drinking these gallons of coffee.
Need some black.
I'm drinking this black coffee.
rifle.
Right, I'm gonna leave here and go to the chiropractor, man. Get an adjustment. See my physical therapist. Let him work these muscles out. Oh man, 11:30. Whoo, I can't wait.
Okay, so when
get a tune up, baby.
When do you fly out for Vegas?
I am leaving tomorrow, and then CinemaCon starts Sunday. So I'm gonna go have some fun Friday and Saturday. I'm gonna CinemaCon it up and soak in as much of that crazy fun as I can Sunday through Thursday. Then I'm going to kick it on some other type fun in Vegas Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I got goof off Friday, Saturday this weekend. Then Sunday through Thursday is CinemaCon, which is kind of goof off, kind of fun. And then I'll hit some more fun Friday, Saturday, Sunday again in Vegas. So, go shoot some guns, race some cars, and watch a lot of movies, and go to some rooftop parties and see my friends. And yeah, so looking forward to it.
I got you. Okay, so Zendaya is in the Odyssey.
Man, that girl would go to the grand opening of a grocery store.
Yeah.
They're putting that girl in everything.
Yeah, she's going into everything. I don't think that she's that talented, but I think she's pretty good.
Captured that zeitgeist of, like you were saying earlier, influencer attention, and she's got she's just got that social media push like Megan Fox had years ago.
You know who else is in the Odyssey?
Who?
Patterson.
Look out now.
Patterson.
You can go see him this weekend in the drama at Riverdale 10, Riverdale10.com. Go see those two stars in the drama. You can also catch them at Central City 10, centralcity10.com in Hot Springs, Arkansas, Riverdale10.com in Little Rock, Arkansas.
But you know why I'm going to go see the Odyssey? Because of the director.
Yes.
That's why I'm
Mr.
going to see
Nolan.
that. Yep.
Dunkirk.
He does not do anything
Inception.
bad.
Let's keep on talking about this guy.
Yeah.
Genius.
Memento.
Right up there, bro. They're going to be talking about him like they talk about Spielberg.
Yeah, well, they should be.
We talk about him in the future like they talk about Scorsese. Look out now. I love Christian
He's
Nolan.
talented.
I love
man.
Christian Nolan.
He's
Don't get me
unbelievable.
started.
And his brother is always right there with him.
Somebody got to carry the water, I guess.
He helps write the script.
Look out now.
Yeah, he does a
Get 'em.
great job as a writer.
Sounds like Coen Brothers or something.
Yeah.
There you go.
Except that both of them know that they're men. All right. With that, let's move on. And Matt, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Love
Thanks for
being
coming
here.
in today.
Good to see you, brother.
We'll get it together
Have a
again
good weekend.
in a week. All
2
right.
weeks. 2 weeks from
In a
today.
couple weeks. All right.
All right,
We'll do
brother.
that. All right. You can tell me all about Vegas.
CinemaCon.
We'll take a break. News is next. I'll see you tomorrow morning on the radio.
All right, brother.
All right.
Thank you, sir.